with a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, and welcome to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. It is Friday, the 25th day of April 2025, and we're coming to you live from the Port Mall here in Scarborough, Tobago. I am Adana Kumbi. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it.
Good morning, and my name is Akinlabi Holder, and we are here. It's Friday, the final work day of the week. Give it your all, go out there with the energy and the zest, and get things done today. Adana?
Not just the last working day of the week, but the last, it is the day before, the last working day before the day.
Yes.
You know, we're in general election season, general election mode, and people are getting ready to go out to the polls and to cast their ballots. If by now you haven't made up your mind, there's still time to make your decision in terms of who you are going to place your vote for. And remember, your voice is important. Your voice counts. You don't want to be behind the scenes making the noises and not using the opportunity that is given to you, your civic duty, your right to go and cast your vote there to let your voice be heard. So I hope you're on the list of revised list of electors. You did your due diligence, your ID card, you know where to find it, you know where to find your poll card. And even if you can't, those things will be made available to you. But the most important thing is go out to the polls and cast your ballots.
Yes.
So you know, things heating up a little bit, and we're coming down. It's crunch time.
Yes, getting really
it's crunch time, and you've been hearing, you know, all the little, and I must say congratulations to Tobago CivilNet for providing that platform for the candidates to have that conversation, the first of its kind here in Tobago. I haven't seen anything like it in Trinidad.
Yeah.
You know, and so I must say kudos to them there, and for the candidates for coming forward and, you know, defending their positions, and of course encouraging the population to come out and vote where that is concerned. And I want to see a little bit more of that as well, and I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of how they're responding to the questions rather than I ask you and you answer. I want to have like a conversation, you know, that type of setting. So hopefully maybe the next time around we could, you know, tweak things as we go along. I really like what they did. You know, I like the opportunity and the openness that it created for them to have that space to do all of that.
Yes, and it also allows for the general public to really see a sort of civil approach to campaigning, you know, and it sort of kind of helps to cool the passions of the general public and make them step back from taking those very drastic actions that we see every now and then during elections campaigns.
In a more somber kind of manner, yes. And I really, truly appreciate that. Well, viewers, we have a lot in store for you this morning, and we do hope that you could stay with us throughout our entire programming. Before we get into all of that, we head on over to the news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Adana. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Friday, April 25th, 2025. Chief of Mission for the CARICOM Observer Team, Ian Hughes, says no major violence or disruptions are expected during Trinidad and Tobago's April 28th general election. The team, which includes 8 observers, has met with key stakeholders, including political parties, the EBC, and civil society. Hughes expressed confidence in a peaceful outcome and noted strong public trust in the electoral process. Observers plan to visit 35% of polling stations, focusing on marginal constituencies. While the team won't interfere, they may report concerns to the EBC. The mission is fully funded by the CARICOM Secretariat. Up next, PDP Tobago West candidate Curtis Douglas says the party will create jobs, raise URP and CPEP salaries, and build homes in communities if it wins both Tobago seats in the April 28 election. Douglas criticized Tobago's high unemployment, calling it the worst in history, and claimed only the PDP offers real solutions. He condemned the TPP's split from Watson Duke and said voters want to correct that wrong. Douglas added that PDP is running a clean grassroots campaign, unlike other parties heavily funded and focused on advertising. And finally, with the 2025 general election just days away, a North American Caribbean Teachers Association polls shows a tight race with neither the PNM nor the UNC holding a clear lead in marginal constituencies. The outcome is uncertain, with 4% of voters undecided and many seats within the 4% margin of error. The UNC has gained support and leads slightly in the popular vote, while the PNM retains some strongholds. However, it is noted that the influence of smaller parties may impact results. In Tobago, the race remains competitive. The election is too close to call. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Thank you, Biana, for our news there in 90 seconds. As we mentioned before, Akilabi and I mentioned before, we right at the cusp of the election, and in as much as you kind of want to listen to polls and you follow the history and stuff like that, elections are won on election day.
True.
And that is, I think that has been the mantra for all the political parties. All the candidates have been saying you need to come out and vote. I mean, I've been hearing it more so from one specific party,
yes.
But we need to remember that you have to come out and vote. Whatever outcome you want to see, you have the opportunity to contribute actually to the outcome of what is to happen. So what are we gonna do? We here at Tobago Updates Television, of course, we're going to be bringing all the information to our viewers. We're going to be right up front and center as the proceedings take place on Monday.
Yes.
Throughout the weekend. There are going to be some motorcades and rallies around the island, right?
And I think today is Blue Day as well as Red Day. So
yeah,
that's another lookout for today.
And even up till late last night, I know that the candidates and their followers, they were out late last night because I'm trying to remember what time I was hearing loud processions, So I know that the thing start as we say here in Trinidad and Tobago. So, Biana, what are you thinking, feeling in terms of this election?
One thing I observed, right, while the PDP was saying that, other parties are out there advertising and having their meetings and stuff. I noticed that the IDA, they didn't, put forward a manifesto as such, and in terms of, like having public meetings to say what's their position or, their take on the general elections. I didn't see much of that from the IDA. Neither did it from the Patriotic Front.
I was just about to say, I don't think I saw anything from them either. Akilabi?
Yes.
Well, I guess those parties are more dependent, relying on doing house-to-house campaign, in-person campaigns, meeting with persons and talking to them one-on-one, that kind of thing, getting a feel for what the needs and requirements
but
are.
The thing about it is you wouldn't be able to cover all ground.
Yes.
And have you heard anybody saying that they've had any interaction or any engagement with them on the ground?
Well, I can speak for me. I haven't seen the IDA visit my area, and neither the Patriotic Front. So that's why I would have, mentioned that.
Likewise with me, to me, there hasn't been much visibility where they are concerned. I have not seen them or heard much from them.
Yeah.
You're mostly hearing from the two major parties.
Yes.
And I suppose I don't know if it's because of funding or if it's a strategy. I don't know what it is, but you're just definitely not hearing from the smaller ones that are coming up. So
yes, they would have they would have some human resource challenges in order to canvass and really go about and have that wide reach as the larger political parties such as the TPP and the PNM would have. So a lot of persons are going to miss the IDA and the Patriotic Front and the independent candidates and so forth, because they just don't have the resources to cover as much ground
But they
as
have
the other
social media
parties.
platform. I guess everybody would be able to be reached at that.
And even there, they are silent. You know, even there,
Yeah.
there's not much happening there unless you actually. And even when you scroll looking for, you could barely find anything unless you might see like a press release or something coming out. But in terms of interaction with the public, you're not really seeing that coming out there. So, you know, I mean, the race is on. So, and they have so many hats in the ring. And I want to remind our public of who the candidates are for East and West. And I don't know, I didn't discuss this with the production team this morning, so I don't know if they have them on their fingertips, but I really wanted to remind our public who the candidates are both for East and for West. And the list goes like this. In the West, we have Aretha Clark. She is for the Patriotic Front. We have Shamfa Ashaki Kojo Lewis, People's National Movement. Curtis Anthony Douglas, Progressive Democratic Patriots. Leroy Richards, Kelton George, long name, plenty names, boy, an independent. Dexter Jamik James, this is the All People's Party.
Yes.
I almost forgot about them.
Yes.
I almost forgot about them. Ricardo Sammy Philip, this is Class Action Reform Movement. Nikosi Darius Darrell Phillips, Unity of the People. Joel Marcus Sampson, Tobago People's Party. K. Wendy and Trotman, Innovative Democratic Alliance. And those are the candidates for Tobago West. They are the candidates for Tobago West. And so those are the persons who you will be voting for, the options. In the East, we have Gerard Mark Balfour, Innovative Democratic Alliance. I'm saying this in no particular order, but the order that I have on the list. Wade Henson Caruth, Patriotic Front. Watson Solomon Duke, Progressive Democratic Patriots. David Joseph Thomas, Tobago People's Party. And Ayana Keshra Webster Roy, People's National Movement. So in case you have forgotten, those are the names, and we will try to pull up the photos for you at some point during the broadcast this morning, so you can see, you can have a face of the persons who are the candidates in this general election. By now, you might have made your choice, you might not have made. This is an opportunity for you to decide who you want to vote for, and what you want to see happening here on the island of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago in general. All right, anything else you all want to share with the viewers this morning before we go?
Just at this point,
come out and vote.
Just be safe this weekend and come out and vote.
That's
on
right.
Monday. Practice your civic duty or your civil rights, you know, your franchise, and be safe, everyone.
And that's right. And remember that after Monday, the 28th of April, we all have to reside in the same space.
Yes.
Be good and be kind to each other. It's serious, yes, but it ain't that serious. All right? Bianna, thank you so much for joining us on set this morning, and we do hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the morning where we celebrate with those who are celebrating. It's time for our birthday shout-outs. And of course, you know, we here at Tobago Updates Television, we like to celebrate with persons. We like to join in the celebrations with you all. We want to make sure that you know that we appreciate you. And this morning, we start off with Miss Erna Critchlow. Erna Critchlow is celebrating a birthday this morning, and we say happy birthday to you, lady. This dress she's wearing, I can guarantee you 100% that she is the one who designed and sewed this outfit. Happy birthday to you, Erna, and I do hope that you have a wonderful birthday today.
We move on with the celebrations, and we say happy birthday to Mr. Garfield Lashley. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Lashley. Dressed up looking dapper as ever, and I know today's your special day. You're going to dress up just as dapper as you are in this picture, and you're going to spend it with special ones, friends, families, loved ones. I know you're going to get some really special gifts today, and you're going to be treated as the king that you are, sir.
And if you don't know Mr. Lashley, let me just jump in here, Akinlabi. If you don't know Mr. Lashley, if you've ever been to Mariah Old Time Wedding, that's the guy. I'm just saying. So happy birthday to you, Garfield Lashley. And we round up the birthday celebrations by saying happy birthday to Arlene Job Thomas. Happy birthday to you, Arlene Job Thomas. Now, this lady, she's a sweet lady. She's a kind lady. She loves to laugh and could talk a rubbish. So I want to say happy birthday to you. I do pray God's blessings upon your life, and I do hope that you have a wonderful, amazing birthday as you enter this new chapter, that you continue to laugh, you continue to make people laugh, and you continue to let your light shine. So happy birthday to you as well. And of course, if you are celebrating, even if we don't have your photo, we join in the celebration with you. And we remind you to put God first, because He is the sole reason why there's even anything for us to celebrate. All right, so who are we having conversations with this morning in studio? As you are aware, it is election season. Yes, election season. So we have to be talking about the elections, the preparedness for elections, what we're looking like, what the party sounding like, what to expect. And so this morning we will have those kinds of conversations this morning. In fact, in studio this morning is Mr. Lawrence Hislop, and he'll be speaking on behalf of the People's National Movement this morning in terms of their readiness for the elections, the general elections 2025, which will be held on Monday, 28th April. There'll be more conversations, but you have to stay tuned to be a part of what is happening this morning. So whether you're viewing right here in Tobago, in Trinidad, the Caribbean region, the United States of America, Canada, Asia, Africa, Australia, wherever you are on the globe this morning, this is your opportunity to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
The following is a paid political advertisement.
We read and we ready the new chapter. The People's National Movement, where there's always good news.
I pledge to you as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, we are not touching the senior citizens' pensions, all public service pensions, all retired public servants who receive a public service pension will now receive that tax-free.
No need for tension. Everybody getting the pension.
The PNM not touching your pension. We're not taking your pension down. We're not shifting the goalpost. Your pension is safe with the PNM.
We responsible, very responsible. We read and we ready. Vote PNM.
We go country before party. PNM. We working together. We building together. And we'll make it better.
We paid for this political ad because we care about our seniors.
That was a paid political advertisement.
Are you in a dispute with a registered investment service provider of the TTSEC? Or maybe you're the victim of an investment scam? You can lodge a complaint or submit an anonymous tip to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Download our Investor Protection app or go to ttsec.org.tt to access our complaint form or submit an anonymous tip. Write a clear summary of your complaint. Submit copies of supporting documents along with the originals for verification. Provide a copy of the feedback received from the entity regarding your complaint. All investor complaints or scam reports submitted by the public are acknowledged and reviewed by the TTSEC. Investigations are pursued based on the outcome of the review. Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting the interests of investors and the public. You invest, we protect. Everyone benefits.
When you would have brought home gold, the entire country would have been at a standstill, reveling in this victory. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock, ladies and gents.
The first thing most Trinidadians think about is me pelting coconut.
Still? You think you could handle the pressure?
Ready. People call me Andrew, you're a miracle, Andrew, you're a champion. I say, hold on, why not you?
Ladies and gents, welcome to the playbook.
Like a rest.
Don't worry about that.
Pressure is a privilege.
You can't bring too many at a share no point. Where's the tiebreaker?
There's some things that you would learn that can't be taught in a class.
Correct. Stop telling them don't run. Like, what do you mean don't run?
Easy. All sports.
All right, we gotta make it short and real sweet.
Ready, set,
And it goes a little something
go.
like
We break down the moves needed to win on and off the field.
My compa is the best.
Legendary
corn.
All right, I feel
Curry good too. A good beginning makes a brilliant ending.
This has been the playbook, and class is dismissed.
Courts is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Courts Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Courts Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television. Before we get into our conversation this morning, we would just like to announce that on Tuesday morning 10 a.m. we will be celebrating the life of the late Leandro Panis Nore. His funeral service takes place on Tuesday morning 10 a.m. at the Shore Park Complex. So we'd like for you to join in with us as we celebrate his life. In loving memory of Leandro Nore, we are quite certain that his life touched many, many lives. And so this is an open invitation to all to come out and support the family, show love as we send our dear Leandro Nore to lay to rest. All right, this morning in studio we have with us Mr. Lawrence Hislop, representing the People's National Movement. As you are aware, we are on the closing days for the general election 2025, and so we have to talk about what's happening in the PNM camp. We need to know what's happening. Why should you or me or anybody go out and vote for the PNM? Good morning and welcome.
Morning, Adana. Morning, Akinlabi. Morning, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. It's good to be here again.
Of course, and of course, as you are aware, we're getting ready for the general election. A very, very interesting election. You can see so many candidates have put their hat in the ring this time around, vying for the opportunity for the 2 Tobago seats, both east and west. And so, of course, let's talk on behalf of the PNM in terms of coming back in the ring again. And the general question is, why the PNM? Why are you back here? Why? Where's the confidence that we have in you to ensure that you will be able to represent the people in the type of way that they need the representation in the House?
The thing about it is that the PNM never left. PNM is, since 1956 to now, every election that has been called in this country, the PNM has has fielded candidates in every single constituency, whether it be a general election, a local government election, THA. The PNM has been there, and you know, people say to us that we've been there too long. But that's when you have an institution that is well constructed, well put together. We've had our challenges like any institution that would be this old. But if it is one thing about the People's National Movement, is the stability that you get from an institution that has been there, that has been tried and tested over the years. And every major delivery that you can think of in Trinidad and Tobago has been delivered by the PNM. Every single major, whether it's in health, in sport, in industry, Trinidad and PNM.
And what do you say to the challenge that is posed by the question that if you're there too long, you start to get comfortable and you kind of start to shift your focus from what is required and rather just, well, I'm here, so you know, take me time and I'll do what I have to do. You just feel you just fall into a comfortable position and there is no sort of impact or effectiveness. What do you say to that challenge that is posed?
I don't think that is a real challenge when it comes to the PNM, because the PNM has challenged itself and has challenged itself at every turn to deliver for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And the thing about it is that the PNM doesn't elect itself. The PNM is elected by the people, by the citizenry. And so the citizenry sees that what they get. So even if there is an instance where the PNM is voted out of office, which is usually the case, when persons feel they want a change, they say, well, let me vote them out. Every single time that has happened, the next term the PNM comes back into office, because the citizenry then says, then what we attempted to do didn't make sense. And so every single time that has happened, and in recent vintage, remember that 2010 to 2015 period, the people said they got fed up of Mr. Manning in 2010 and they voted out the PNM. They brought in the People's Partnership with all the euphoria and all the hype. And before you could make 2 years properly, the people were calling for the People's Partnership to go. And then when the PNM came back in with Dr. Rowley in 2015, we entered a period of a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of downturn in the economy. I don't know if people remember that at one point in time, the PNM had to govern this country with oil prices at below $1. There was one morning that we got up and oil prices were -0. And so those are the kinds of things that the PNM has been able to navigate. And then from the starting to rebuild the economy 2015, 2016, 2017, by the time we got to 2019, we then faced with something that nobody could have predicted coming, which was COVID. And so then you had to manage the country through that. We had an election in 2020 in the middle of COVID, people will say, and the nation re-elected the PNM. And since after COVID, the country has been on a growth trajectory, and it's not just Trinidad and Tobago that has been facing challenging times, but the rest of the world. And the PNM was able to stabilize the country, stabilize the economy, do certain things that could see the economy starting to churn again, as we would say it. And we are still recovering from the effects of the pandemic. And so it's not that we get complacent, or that I don't think that the party gets complacent when it's in government. The party always challenges itself to do better and to deliver more for Trinidad and Tobago.
And you know, before Akinlabi, I know you have burning questions as well, but you know, now that we have, this is the first election we've had so many candidates in the race, the very, very first in Trinidad and Tobago. And then a lot of narrations out there in terms of why so many persons have come in. How does the PNM, what is the feeling and the emotion in the PNM right now? And how does the PNM position itself to still stand above all the other parties who are coming in? What is your position where that is concerned?
Well, the PNM continues to say, and with pride, that we are the only national party. And so outside of all those who are in Tobago, the only party that could really form the government of Trinidad and Tobago is the PNM. Because the truth is, we need to pay close attention to this. This is not a THA election. This is a national election, and this is an election to elect a prime minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And you have to ask those, especially we're talking from a Tobago context, you have to ask those in the Tobago context who are fighting for only 2 seats in this election, how are you going to form the government of Trinidad and Tobago? Because currently the government construct that we have in this country doesn't really allow 2 members of parliament on their own to really deliver any significant growth and significant development and significant policy change for Tobago. It really doesn't. Because we need to understand that policy direction, policy change, and development projects and development programs start within a government policy. And hence the reason the PNM has been the only party that has put on the table a full manifesto. And the thing about that is within that manifesto, there are specific things that treat with Tobago and what Tobago will benefit from a PNM government. And the two and your current members of parliament, the 2 candidates to the People's National Movement, they contributed to what is in the manifesto. And so that sets us. I make no apologies for that. That sets us apart from the other parties in Tobago that are vying for those 2 seats, because our construct does not allow you, if you're just an MP, to deliver anything significant unless you're part of a government. Because this is what's going to happen. I some weeks ago I did something that said, if you give the 2 seats to a other than the PNM, what you are trading is a seat at the table of the decision making, which is the cabinet table, for just 45 minutes of speaking time. And then on top of that, you are not even sure that at every sitting of the parliament, you are going to get an opportunity to speak. Because how the thing works, if you are what we call a backbencher, and I see people talking about in this modern day, do we still have backbenchers? Yes, we do. In the parliamentary system, I'll use myself for an example. In the parliamentary system, in the Senate, I was a backbencher, simply because I did not have a ministerial portfolio. That's who a backbencher is. And so all you have as a backbencher is 45 minutes of speaking time. And you have, as it says, the tradition is you have to catch the eye of the speaker. So you have to be there. If this is a debate that you want to get involved in, you have to now gauge who is speaking when, and stand up or raise your hand, and hopefully the speaker sees you and then calls you. When you're part of a government now and there's a particular matter to be dealt with, you have the ability to say to the leader of government business, I want to speak on this matter in the parliament. Or when the thing comes up for discussion at cabinet level, that's where you have the discussion. You know, it is said that the real fight in governance, the real fight takes place around the cabinet table, not in the parliament. Because you have to now put your case forward on behalf of your constituency with other colleagues in that room to say, listen, Tobago deserves a new airport terminal. Tobago deserves a hospital. Tobago deserves 2 new police stations. And these are the kinds of discussions that you have to have around the cabinet table that makes the difference when it comes to governance.
So Mr. Hislop, a lot of your political opponents are arguing that the real issue is representation within the parliament, and they're not satisfied with the level of representation that our 2 MPs give within the parliament itself. And they're arguing, some of them are arguing that, particularly the TPP, that if they get the 2 seats, then they can negotiate with the then government, whoever the then government is. Most likely they're anticipating it will be the United National Congress if they win the 2 seats in Tobago. What is your counter to that argument that they are very confident that they can negotiate something better with the UNC if they're in power than if you give the 2 seats to the PNM and they be, I guess, null and void or non-operative within a cabinet?
No, well, I really want to ask Tobagonians if the preference that you have is something that you are sure about versus something that is up in the air in terms of a negotiation. Because what we have put before you as the People's National Movement is a guarantee that you have 2 members of parliament who are going to be who are going to be part of the decision making. But what the TPP, which is the next major party in Tobago, says to you is that we're going to negotiate. What are you going to negotiate? What is on the table? What is on the table for those 2 Tobago seats as it relates to the TPP? We've said to you plain and simple, and there's no gray area with that. This is what the People's National Movement gives to you. 2 candidates belonging to the PNM who have served as government ministers and who have served within a cabinet. And when I hear them say that there isn't representation in the parliament, you have MPs that have spoken over 120 times in the parliament, who sit in joint select committees and are able to interrogate institutions that have sat across from the member of parliament for Tobago East. We sit on I think it's 2 joint select committees together. And that's where you have representation. When you're talking about parliamentary representation, that's one thing. And parliamentary representation gives you a voice, yes, to speak on particular bills and motions and do. That's what parliamentary representation does. But the representation that is, and I don't want to say more meaningful because they have their place, but the representation that puts additional services in Tobago and the additional money in your pocket, that representation is done at a cabinet level, and the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, has given his assurance, said to Tobago, that your 2 MPs will continue to be part of the cabinet. Because I made this point some time ago, and I'll make it again. It is representation at cabinet that brought about every single major development that you've seen in Tobago. That's not parliamentary representation. No. That's your MP for Tobago East sitting in a cabinet and saying, instead of the hospital going to Santa Cruz or going to Icacas, she says, listen, we need a hospital in Roxrow because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It is because you have a representative in the cabinet. Why, when the argument for a long-promised airport terminal building came, that your MP for Tobago West could have said, listen, that 1 point, how much, or close to $2 billion that is being spent in Tobago outside of the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly. We need that in Tobago. That 2-point-something billion could have been spent in another constituency in Trinidad. You're not gonna get that at parliamentary level, you know. Because the other thing they're talking about is an increased allocation for the Tobago House of Assembly. The law is clearly there as to what the allocation to the THA is. So even if you, and then on top of that, even if that is to change, that has to be a cabinet decision. Because it is the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago that sets the legislative agenda for the parliament. So the cabinet decides what bills come to the parliament. The only time the opposition has an opportunity to see what comes is Private Members' Day, which is 1 day in the month.
Yes.
And then on top of that, if you are not part of the majority opposition, if you understand what I mean, because the opposition may have 6 seats and you have the 2 from Tobago, right? So you still don't form the government. The opposition may have 3, you have the 2 from Tobago, you still don't form the government. So if you are part of the majority, if you are not part of the majority opposition, you have to now negotiate.
And share the private
You have to share the Private Members' Day, which is once a month. And I want to ask the Tobagonians if that is what they are willing to risk. A Private Members' Day, which you're not sure about, and the opposition may say, well, I'll give you one every other month. And I don't think that's going to happen. Because because I can tell you, the other place that occurs is in the Senate. Because in the Senate, you have 3 benches. You have government, you have opposition, and you have independents. And the independents have to negotiate with the opposition to say whether or not they get a Private Members' Day motion to be debated. And the opposition has to be willing to give up that time, you know. And most oppositions wouldn't, because they only have one time to bring something to the floor in the month.
Mr. Hislop, I really hope that, what I'm seeing is needed here is public awareness in terms of how the parliament runs, how the government system operates in terms of, as you broke it down there, what would be the benefits in terms of who gets the 2 seats, right? From the PNM perspective, but in general information for the public to understand how government systems operate, who gets what authority, what powers, what leeway, what leverage to do what is necessary in the house in terms of where the benefits will come, where the advantages are, the disadvantages are in terms of how governments, our government rather,
that's
operates,
the current system that we operate with.
So we really need to get some more public education on how the current system is set up, and so that people can actually make an informed decision. They could weigh the pros and the cons before they make these types of decisions in terms of forming the government for Trinidad and Tobago. And there's plenty more for us to talk about it, but we have to pay some bills, ladies and gentlemen. We have to go for a short break and pay some bills and get back to the conversation, because I really want to talk more about where the PNM is positioned now leading into the general election, outside of the construct and what could happen and what can't happen, what we get in if the PNM goes back into power. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go for a short break this morning, and as we go, we invite you to help us. Share the live. Share the live. We'll be right back.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules, or if you are having a cooking day off.
TNTech is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday, 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Are you in a dispute with a registered investment service provider of the TTSEC? Or maybe you're the victim of an investment scam? You can lodge a complaint or submit an anonymous tip to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Download our Investor Protection app or go to ttsec.org.tt to access our complaint form or submit an anonymous tip. Write a clear summary of your complaint. Submit copies of supporting documents along with the originals for verification. Provide a copy of the feedback received from the entity regarding your complaint. All investor complaints or scam reports submitted by the public are acknowledged and reviewed by the TTSEC. Investigations are pursued based on the outcome of the review. Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting the interests of investors and the public. You invest, we protect. Everyone benefits.
Want to get better? Where to start? What kind of exercise to do? What to eat? How to get restful sleep? Need a doctor to search for root cause? Look no further. Come to Majuba Hill Lifestyle Center Foundation at our Wellness Center in Goodwood. or Food Hub in Darrow Springs, Scarborough, or Doctor's Office in Goodwood and Darrow Spring. Contact 49 Swift 4979 438.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Welcome back, viewers, to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, and we are in studio here with Mr. Lawrence Hislop, and we're discussing the People's National Movement and their campaign for the general elections 2025. So, Mr. Hislop, I want to get back into the conversation with you, and I just want to discuss something you had mentioned earlier. You spoke about the PNM's track record over the past 10 years as they will guide the nation through some difficult economic times. But some of your opponents have some critiques about you, about the political party, and they say that you all have not done enough for the economy, and they've also critiqued the administration's handling of the crime situation within Trinidad and Tobago. What is the party's response to those critiques?
But the truth about it is that if we keep, so remember we spoke about COVID and those trying times. The thing about it is that no public servant has lost his or her job within that period, within even these very difficult situations. I think by and large the economy has stabilized to the extent that we still enjoy a standard of living within Trinidad and Tobago that can rival any other developing nation or any other nation in the Caribbean. There are a lot of things that we still take for granted in this country that has remained even in these difficult times. So, free healthcare, we take those things for granted. Free education, we take those things for granted. A senior citizens grant that we take for granted, that even in some developed countries around the world, you don't have those kinds of things. You don't have free healthcare in the United States. You have to go pay for your healthcare. If you don't have insurance, you're in problems. So all of those things that still that benefit you and I, that we go and sit in the hospital and we get open heart surgeries and knee replacement and ankle replacement and all of these things, all of these orthopedic procedures that are so expensive that the government still covers. I believe as a Trinbagonian that even though we have weathered difficult times, that the country is still in a place that we can live comfortably. As it relates to the crime situation, I know that is a bugbear for the party, for the government, and for many governments before, because crime is not a governmental issue. Crime is a social issue, and when I say it's not a governmental issue, it's the responsibility of the state to provide safety and security for its citizenry. But the truth of the matter is, you have a minority that continues to hold this country to ransom, and you have to ask the question, what is in it for them? Because I haven't heard where persons speak to the fact that the measures that were called for in terms of a state of emergency that was done had successes, because we like to use the murder rate as the measurement. And if we had to look month on month, year on year, currently the murder rate is way lower than it was last year. And so whilst no murder is acceptable, we have to look at the bigger picture as to why we are where we are.
Can I just jump in here? Sure. I mean, Kinabia come back, staying on crime. And yes, while crime is not a government
the government is not the cause
of right. Government is not the cause, and then you introduce the fact that it's a social situation. Where is the government in terms of this handling the social situation, the social impact, the social fallouts within communities in Trinidad and Tobago to buffer the fact that the crime rate has been
That's a good question. I heard someone say recently that in 2010, between 2010 and 2015, I think one of the biggest mistakes that the People's Partnership made, and they made a lot, one of the biggest mistakes that they made within that period was to close down the youth camp system, was to close down an avenue for our young men and boys to have an avenue to do something, to be productive.
Yeah, but it's 2025 and it's not back on stream.
Right.
So
So I could tell you that currently the youth camps are being, because I know Chatham and so on, the youth camps are being built up. Chaguaramas as well, the convention center, I believe, is being converted. I think that's one of the projects that was in stream. The work is currently going on in Chaguaramas to bring the convention center to a stage where you can have the youth camp system there again. The MILAT and those programs are avenues that the government has been using to attempt to get our young men in a more positive direction. There are a lot of positive stories coming out of your MILAT program, where young men who went into the system, went in with nothing, came out of troubled communities, and they got into this program, settled themselves, came out in subjects. Some of them are actually working in the defense force today, because the government has said, listen, and to add to that point, this government was the one who said we are going to create a ministry of youth and national service, youth development and national service, which is directly targeted to young people. We're not talking about the success stories in your homestead farming program, where the government came under a lot of licks from the opposition for that, because the government says, listen, we're going to take these young people who are interested in agriculture, we're going to send them for the training, and then after that, we are going to give you a start. We're going to give you a parcel land and a house, so that could be your start towards positive growth, positive development. I honestly believe that in Trinidad and Tobago, we focus too much on the negatives, when this country has a lot of positives to offer, when the government has spent significant money, and the current Prime Minister has said in the new government coming, more money is going to be pumped into my DNS to create more avenues for our young people to find meaningful work and it's not just about work. When you create training programs and young people go for training, this is not just for you to get a job, This is for you to consider the possibility of, listen, I could become an entrepreneur. And then you have the NEDCO program that's there to assist with grants and to give loans for businesses that so the government has been doing a lot when it comes to social programs, when it comes to developing programs for young people. One of the things that I would want us as a country to do is to understand that there are adults within our communities who are the driving force behind these criminal elements, and sometimes those are the people that we have to call out for the nonsense that they're doing.
So, Mr. Hislop, you listed a number of programs, social intervention programs that the government has been undertaking to try and mitigate the crime situation, particularly amongst our young men. But persons within the society, whether they're politically motivated or not, they have lamented that a lot of these things aren't working. A lot of the measures that the government are undertaking aren't working. And political opponents to the PNM would have often criticized the PNM of being generally soft on crime, or generally weak on crime. Whatever you implement, it never works. It's never as effective as perhaps compared to other administrations may have come into power. They may have a bit more success in reducing, as you said earlier, we measured through the murder rate, in reduction of the murder rate. The PNM has historically not been as strong as other political administrations in that. What is your response to that kind of critique that what you're doing right now isn't working and you have been historically weak in the crime fighting?
What I could see, that historical thing is another story all by itself. But what I could say is that the government has a responsibility to create the environment for your agencies to function within. Under Mr. Manning, you had a unit called SORT. You had these specialized units. You had Mr. Manning's government making investment in offshore patrol vessels. It was in 2010 and 2015 that you dismantled your specialized unit that was responsible, because I don't know if persons remember that during that Manning government, there was this upsurge in kidnappings. And then there were systems put in place, the blimp came in, SORT came in, and kidnappings almost became zero. right? The People's Partnership dismantled every single security apparatus that we had in this country. Every single security apparatus that gave us that edge against the criminal element. And then on top of that, there was a particular piece of legislation that they brought into force when they were in office, which is the bail amendment bill, bail legislation, which said that if you're a repeat offender and you come for a serious crime, you're not going to get bail. The opposition at the time under Dr. Rowley supported that legislation. Yeah, there was a sunset clause in that legislation. What a sunset clause is like an expiry date.
Yeah, after a certain amount of
right?
time.
So after a certain time, you come back to the parliament for you to get a revalidation of the legislation. That exact bill, when the sunset clause, when the date kicked in, that exact bill was brought back to the parliament under this government. Do you know what the opposition did? The opposition refused to support the bill that they brought, that the then opposition under Dr. Rowley gave them the support for. So the same legislation that they brought, that the PNM supported, when the expiry date came and the PNM is now in office, and the PNM brings that same bill back to the parliament, the UNC says, we're not supporting our own bill because you're now in office. And those are some of the things that the government has had to deal with when it comes to the fight on crime. Because you're talking about repeat offenders. And you're sending these guys back out. And then the other challenges you have, sometimes a judiciary that has a band when it comes to offenses and giving bail. And you have magistrates and so on and judges and so on who give bail. Now, I may not give bail if I be sitting in the seat. But you have, according to the law, you have the right to bail. We tried that again recently to say, listen, if you're a repeat offender, you can't get bail. You should not get bail if you come back with a gun crime or murder or whatever. You cannot get bail. And the opposition said, you're infringing on people's right.
Oh.
And so those are the things, because we have to understand that the criminal element belongs to a small community. And it's the repeat offenders that keep doing these things over and over again. When the police does their job, and sometimes we beat up on the police, but when the police does their job, brings the people to the court system, then you have a long drawn out system that creates another conundrum. And so whilst we say, yeah, the citizenry blames the government, in a lot of instances, the government in its position as policymaker. Because the thing about it, there is a police commissioner who's responsible for the execution, the enforcement of the laws that the government puts on the table. Because it was the police service that asked for the state of emergency. They needed certain powers to do what they have to do. They came to the government, they said, this is what we need. The government said, okay, fine, we give you the tools, because that is what the government is there to do. To create an environment for your agencies within your structure to do what they're supposed to do. The government went to Australia, purchased new Coast Guard vessels to assist in that border protection that we so need as well.
Okay, well, Mr. Hinsop, let's segue and head into 2025 and beyond, and what the PNM is offering the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we could zone in on what the PNM will be offering the people of Tobago as well. So, concerning the manifesto of the People's National Movement, what can the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and specifically the people of Tobago, look forward to from the People's National Movement?
Listen, there is so much, and I'm going through my phone with the information that we have. You have in the agriculture sector, you're talking about the launch of a national virtual marketplace for farmers, where you could actually put your produce online and get it sold, get it out there, get it out in the marketplace. There's also a push for an ICT export hub, where it speaks to the positioning of local firms as premier cloud service providers and experts to the Caribbean region. Because we know that's a big thing now, IT, the nomad as well. That's one of the things that has been proposed for Tobago to be able to say, listen, we could create the environment for for persons to come in and work for 6 months in Tobago, and we're talking here about foreigners come and work remotely for 6 months. There's also the ancestral lands that we're seeking to regularize, because we know that that's a big challenge in Tobago. People have acreage of lands that are in family names, and they just handing down, and they tell you they bong over so, and this one so, and they bong up by a mango tree there that's been there for 100 years. And so the government is seeking to create the environment for that. That's one of the things to be dealt with, because we need to understand that of all the parties that are currently in the contest for your vote, the People's National Movement is the only one that has put forward a manifesto. There's also the proposal for a regional service center in Tobago, so that you have a one-stop shop. When you go to that, every single service that sometimes we now have to travel to Trinidad for, every single service will be there in that one-stop shop, so that when you go there, you don't have to jump on a flight to go down the road to get something sorted out. In terms of
who have to jump on the flight to go down in Trinidad then? But they set that up.
No, but you see, if the push that the government has gone on over the last 10 years with the creation of a Ministry of Digital Transformation, you now have a lot of things online. Because people talk about the days when you had to go down to Trinidad for your boat paper and all of those kind of things. When the system is working properly, you sit. I think I experienced it a couple of weeks ago. I needed to get some copies, boat paper and so on, and within about 10 minutes, you get your boat paper right here. And that's because you now have an online system that could treat with that. It was recently introduced that you can do almost everything now for licensing online. And so the government's push for online services, and I remember speaking to Minister Bacchus, and he says, I said, people don't know what you're doing. I said, that has always been one of the claims. Digital transformation is just there and people don't know. He said, Lawrence, it's not really for my ministry to see what we're doing. It is for the services that the citizenry gets at the other ministries, which will seek. That is what we have been doing in the background. And I agree with him to the extent, because that's what IT is. There's a lot of work for IT's background. And what you see as the end result with the interface is like nearly 5% of what goes into a platform. So when you pick up your phone and you could just hit an app and everything comes up at you, that's 5% of the background work. And so there is also the issue with senior citizens grants, where it will be processed faster. Everything will practically be done online. So we're talking about a new cargo boat for Tobago. You have obviously a Sanders project that people still find contentious, but the reality is, in order for Tobago to be part of a bigger part of the economy in terms of bringing something significant to the economy as well, you need other industries. We're talking about diversification. And if we're talking diversification, we're talking about an economy. An economy is about economy, is a scale.
Mr. Hislop, I don't want to cut you off. I'm looking at time, and I have this burning question I have to ask you.
Sure.
There is one primary thing that all of Tobago are looking for, right, coming out of this general election. What's that? I want to ask you. I want you to answer me what you think it is, and I didn't hear you mention it yet. And that's something that our viewers hanging on right now to listen to.
Everybody talks about autonomy. Everybody talks about autonomy, and in the manifesto, that is there as well. The continued push with dialogue with the Tobago's of Assembly for Tobago to get additional autonomy. Listen. That should not have even been in this manifesto. The conversation about that additional autonomy for Tobago should not have even been in this.
It's in the it is in the manifesto now, and the drive now is to get it to happen.
Adana, we had an opportunity. We lost that opportunity then.
How are we getting it back on the table?
So listen.
So here's
all
what.
Right. So here again, this is the point we're making. You require for Tobago to achieve the significant additional autonomy that is needed, that we all agree that's needed for Tobago. You require a constitutional majority. You require 31 votes in the parliament. And so when people say, with 2, we're gonna give you autonomy. That's hogwash. The PNM had 22 votes in the parliament. And we were unable, even though every single PNM MP that was in the House, because there were two bills that were on the table. You know. There was the Tobago Island Government Bill, and there was the Constitutional Amendment Bill. The Tobago Island Government Bill was the one that created the construct of what the government in Tobago would look like. And I could tell you, because that only required a simple majority, every single PNM MP in the House voted in favor. Because I said to someone, I remember after that, I got my order paper for the Senate. And usually what happens when a bill is passed in the House and has to come to the Senate, you'll get it on your order paper. And when I opened the order paper, a couple days after that, that bill was on the order paper for the Senate, the Tobago Island Government Bill. Which means that that bill could have come to the Senate, been debated and passed. But the truth is, that by itself couldn't give us the autonomy that we need. What you needed was the passage of the constitutional majority bill, which by the way, we've said over and over again that it is the morning of the debate that the chief secretary said.
Going into general election 2025, PNM delivering. Should PNM get back into the parliament, PNM is delivering.
Adana, if PNM gets 31 seats, if PNM gets a constitutional majority, there is a guarantee that Tobago will get autonomy. Because listen.
If you don't get 31 seats, then what?
Listen.
What is the strategy if you don't get 31?
So what has to happen is that Tobagonians have to say with one voice. Tobagonians have to say with one voice, listen, this is what we want, give it to us. Because I keep saying, we say that the Act 40 and 1996 is inadequate. We had something that would have given us more than we have now. And we said, and I say we very guardedly, the chief secretary who is in charge of Tobago said to the opposition in Trinidad, do not support these bills. And these bills would have given Tobagonians an additional $1.4 billion annually to its budget, which would have equated to $100,000 per household in Tobago. And as I said on our platform, that does not mean that you're going to get $100,000 in your pocket. But what it does is that it allows additional services. So that $100,000 will go to better healthcare on the island.
But here this, Mr. Hislop,
education.
Akila asked a really interesting question. You said if you get the 31, you definitely we're going to get.
And you asked what is the strategy?
What is the strategy? A very important question. I like that question.
And I'm saying that Tobagonians have to see. This is, and not to the PNM, you know. Because the PNM as a party went as far at a convention to say and took a party position. Because I don't think people understand that. When Trinidad and Tobago was fighting for independence, it was a convention that said, we are going to the UK and we are going to get independence of Trinidad and Tobago. And then Dr. Williams then took up that and went on with it. And so I'm saying that at a convention, the PNM took a decision that Tobago's autonomy ought to become government policy. And it did that. The PNM took a decision, autonomy for Tobago must become government policy. It did become government policy. And the government attempted to get two bills passed to give Tobago additional autonomy. And I'm saying the strategy is simple. We've put it in the manifesto. The Prime Minister has given a commitment that when we form the government again, that is on the agenda. It is for us as Tobago. It is for us as the administration in Tobago Sub-Assembly to have conversations, not with just the PNM, because the PNM has given its commitment, but you have to have conversations with the opposition to say, listen, those bills that come in, support them because we want them. And that's the strategy.
All right, so Mr. Hislop, what other goodies the PNM have for for Tobago. You know, we got a little sidetracked with the
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a sidetrack. That's a sidetrack.
It's a burning issue for Tobagonians, but you were listing a number of things.
Yeah. So additionally, the expansion of safe houses in Tobago for women and children, which is very dear, which is near and dear to the MP for Tobago East and the candidate for Tobago East. Also, the modern, we've spoken about the marina, that just as how a person said to me, the airport is long in coming, we know that, but it took APNM government to say, listen, we're putting it on the agenda. So whilst the marina would have been long in coming and there should have been more than one in Tobago, the government that says, we're putting this on the agenda, we're going to get it done, to make Tobago yachting destination, because we've seen what that has done to other destinations. The marinas and so on have done significantly for other destinations. As I said, the digital nomad hub, which speaks to allowing persons to come here, work for a period of time, work remotely. The strengthening of MILAT, the government is serious about, in consultation with the Tobago House of Assembly, bringing MILAT to Tobago.
Yes.
As part of the offering, so that our young men could have an option. And as I spoke to the advanced land regularization for Tobago, and especially protecting those ancestral lands, so that I, as I said, a manifesto gives you a pathway as to where the government is going. The details to those things obviously will be worked out from a legislative standpoint. How do you intend to do that? Whether we set up a tribunal, whether you set up an office dedicated to those kind of things in Tobago. But those are some of the things that are on offering, in addition to other major national projects that will benefit Tobago.
And you know, before we close, for me, the primary areas of concern for any country, for any nation, and specifically Trinidad and Tobago, as we mentioned earlier, crime is one of them, education and commerce, right? And those are the three areas that I kind of want to see some kind of injection in terms of ensuring that the people have the confidence and they feel comfortable and they feel like, if, well, yeah, we're going somewhere. I kind of waiting to...
No, well, I think things like your marina, things like the digital nomad.
What are some of the things that will take immediate effect? Because when you're talking about a marina, we're not going to get that on the 29th.
Right.
Right? So some of the things that could be implemented immediately into office. Those are the kind of things that we kind of short term.
Yes. You see, so that's the thing, and Dr. Oli had put it very, very beautifully at the opening of a I think it was at the Lisa Morris Julian Boulevard. He said governance is like a conveyor belt. So as things keep coming and you take them off, more things keep coming. And so in a lot of instances, government delivery, in terms of major delivery, is really medium to long term. And so I think one of the things that may be able to be triggered very quickly is that center, that facility where government services, all your government services, can be done. When you go there, you get everything done. That's something I believe from an IT standpoint could be possibly delivered within a year. And that's me speaking out of turn, because I'm not the judge, not head of the government, but that's something that could possibly be rolled out within a year. And the thing about it is, a marina, not because you're not going to get the delivered project in a year, but construction benefits the island. Because if you start the construction within a year, then you're talking about employment for the duration of the project. So that will bring economic activity to the island. Also, your protection of your MILAT. MILAT is something that wouldn't take or shouldn't take very long to get going. Because what you would need is a space. So those are some of the things. I know people look forward to goodies. They call budgets goodies when you get gas doing increase and all those things. But when you're talking about development for a country, some of the things that you want to get done may not necessarily be triggered immediately as you get into office. But the rollout starts and takes place.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hislop. I know we don't have more time to go through, all the things that we want to discuss this morning.
No, but I just want to say to the people of Tobago, you have a choice to make come Monday, and a choice for a Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That's what it is. So 2 seats We don't, let's not play with two seats. We have a choice to make. The choice is between Kamala Persad and Stuart Young, and you. Yeah, there's only one choice in that race, Adana.
All right. Thank you so much for gracing us this morning and for going through that conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We've been speaking with Mr. Lawrence Hislop, representing the People's National Movement as we head on into General Election 2025. Remember, Monday, the 28th of April is Election Day, and you have your civic duty to go out there and vote. The polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 6 p.m. as they do for every single election. Make sure that you are on the revised list of electors. Have your ID card, your poll card, and even if you don't turn up at the polling station, the information officer is going to direct you there and give you the information that you need to ensure that you vote. Your vote counts, and it will make a difference. Before we end the morning show this morning, I must remind you that next week, Tuesday, the 29th of April, is the homegoing service for Leandro Panis Nore. It takes place 10 a.m. at the Shore Park Complex, and of course, we want all of Tobago to come out to show love and support to his family, friends, and loved ones as we send home a beautiful soul to lay to rest. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we end the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT with Candice Jackson. So stay with us, and as you stay, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.
About to sign today will ensure that the three agencies work together, understand each other's role. There will be no duplication of efforts. Where one stops, the other begins. We cannot do it all, so we need the support. And this will ensure that we have things documented, set down in writing, where there's clarity.
The TRHA and the executive management of the TRHA is committed to providing the resources that are integral in making this collaborative effort work, because ultimately we are not the beneficiaries of this MOU. We are the stewards of the MOU, which is birthed in order to protect the children of this island.
We have come to the place where we see this not as a Children's Authority MOU, but as a tripartite MOU, where the three entities come together and we say this is what we are responsible for as it relates to the nation's and the island's children. And that is critical because it means that we now are taking full responsibility, all of us. We're not saying it's Children's Authority that's supposed to do that. We're not saying it's TRHA, we're not saying it's the division, we're not saying it is not my responsibility, it is yours. We are saying collectively, it is our responsibility to ensure that this child is safe.
Does three things. It reduces that interaction of the child with three different agencies, so we don't re-traumatize the young child. It provides a seamless legal coverage for the child throughout the entire case management process, and it helps all three agencies document this case appropriately, so that when it comes for the review, which may happen through the legal system, we have each other's role clearly spelled out and the documentation therein.
This is really setting the pace for what we really want here on the island of Tobago. It really is a passion of mine in terms of enhancing families and children. So this occasion right here is just the start of us really trying our best to see how best we could provide support for children and families with the different agencies that are involved that have signed here today. So honestly, I'm really, really excited. As we say, this is the step in the right direction for us here in terms of child protection in the collaboration with the THA and the TRHA here today.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
A brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We got beauty, we got power.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds. Chief of Mission for the CARICOM Observer Team, Ian Hughes, says no major violence or disruptions are expected during the Trinidad and Tobago's April 28 general election. The team, which includes 8 observers, has met with key stakeholders including political parties, the EBC, and civil society. Hughes expressed confidence in a peaceful outcome and noted strong public trust in the electoral process. Observers plan to visit up to 35% of polling stations, focusing on marginal constituencies. While the team won't intervene, they may report concerns to the EBC. The mission is fully funded by the CARICOM Secretariat. Meanwhile, PDP Tobago West candidate Curtis Douglas says the party will create jobs, raise URP and CPEP salaries, and build homes in the community if it wins both Tobago seats in the April 28 election. Douglas criticized Tobago's high unemployment, calling it the worst in history, and claimed only the PDP offers real solutions. He condemned the TPP split from Watson Duke and said voters want to correct what are wrong. Douglas added the PDP is running a clean grassroots campaign, unlike other parties, heavily funded and focused on advertising. And finally, with Trinidad and Tobago's general election just days away, a North American Caribbean Teachers Association NACTA poll shows a tight race, with neither the PNM nor UNC holding a clear lead in marginal constituencies. The outcome is uncertain, with 4% of voters undecided and many seats within a 4% margin of error. The UNC has gained support and leads slightly in the popular vote, while the PNM retains some strongholds. However, it is noted that the influence of smaller parties may impact results. In Tobago, the race remains competitive. The election is too close to call. And that was the news in 90 seconds. And viewers, yes, we are basically a couple days away, 3 days away from general election on Monday, and it is exciting today. If you're going to be in town, it's going to be very, very exciting, as you know, the major political parties are going to be parading through the streets and so on. So a lot of activity happening. Lots of them are wrapping up also their campaigns and things like that. So you still have some time to decide who you're going to vote for on Monday. But one of those parties that are going to tell us and try to explain to us why they are the best choice for Monday is none other than the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, and that is Mr. Ansel Dennis, who is going to be on with me for the rest of the morning. So good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. I am doing great. Good morning to your listeners and viewers as well. It's always a pleasure to be on this network.
Great. So we're going ahead with Mrs. Champa Cajole Lewis in Tobago West and Mrs. Ayana Webster Roy in Tobago East. They are the incumbents. They are seeking a third term. Why should we give them a third term?
Well, I think it's obvious. We have been advancing several arguments during this short campaign, and I think over the last 10 years, those two young ladies have a proven track record of delivery to the people of Tobago. They have a proven track record of service and commitment to the people of Tobago, both as members of parliament, where they were elected by the people of Tobago, and as ministers in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, where they were appointed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. And I think over the last 10 years, the track record is there to show Tobago as an island has benefited unprecedentedly from this central government. I do not recall a time in my lifetime. I was born in 87, and I believe the history goes even way before that, where Tobago as an island benefited so significantly and so greatly from the central government in particular. I think we can see and feel and touch approximately $3 billion in commitments to the people of Tobago, whether it was the new airport terminal building, the much needed police stations. I'm sure we recall the fact that those police stations were already contracted during the time where the People's Partnership government came into office in 2010 to 2015. They met the contracts in place for those police stations that were put in place by the previous PNM governments. They cancelled them. We recall the Old Grange police station, what that was like, what the conditions were there. And this government delivered 2 new police stations. We recall the situation with the fire station in Roxborough. We delivered there as well. We delivered a hospital to the people of Tobago East. We delivered an administrative complex. And in addition to that, a number of other programs that has benefited people were delivered by the central government as well. So I think there is a long list of deliverables, and the track record is a very powerful one.
You know, what is interesting in this election is the amount of candidates that have put themselves forward. And how does the PNM view that burst, especially with 9 candidates in the Tobago West seat and 5 in the East?
Well, it's democracy at work. It augurs well for democracy, the fact that anybody could get up and decide that they want to run for an election. All that is required is a $5,000 payment to the EBC. And we know according to law, you must garner a certain amount of votes if you are to get back that deposit. So it's democracy at work. But people must be very discerning and very clear in deciding upon who is the best candidate in this race, both in the East and the West. And I think once you look at it from a perspective of the party, the experience and the track record of the party, the stability of the party, and a lot of people will try to downplay that, but the reality is that our system is one of party politics. We are no different from the United Kingdom and from the United States and other first world countries, where the party, that organization, plays a tremendous role, because it is the party that really holds the government together. It is the party that will go out and campaign based on a certain philosophy, based on a manifesto, based on promises and commitments to the people. And it is the party that, of course, will be the vehicle in government to ensure that those things are delivered. So let's not downplay the importance of political parties. And I think we had our own experience here in Tobago, where a political party was elected to the THA, and within the first year, all the persons, all the assemblymen except one, resigned from that political party to go to be independent. And then following that, they formed a new political party that is now contesting this general election with 2 candidates. And of course, they are going to contest the next THA election as well. We in the PNM, we have no such record of indiscipline. We have no such record of any splintering. Of course, like any organization, we will have our challenges, but we remain the PNM and we remain stable and committed to the development of the people of Trinidad and Tobago as we have been for the last 69 years.
Now, your party has released a very comprehensive manifesto in terms of your plans going forward, and I want to actually spend a lot of time in going through some of those details, so we could get a better understanding of what you guys are presenting for the next 5 years. And when you look at priority 1, it says, you know, a government and public sector that works for you. Now, this breaks off a little bit into like things about autonomy and so on, but I want you to just sort of, why is this priority 1 and what does this mean for the man on the ground?
Well, basically, I think all of us can accept that our system of governance is not perfect, and maybe it will never be perfect. So we in the PNM as a government, as we have done for the last 9 years, will always try to find ways to improve the delivery of government services to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, digitization is a priority for us. We want to ensure that the government works more quickly and more seamlessly. We want to ensure that people are able to access government services, especially basic services, without having to visit a government building. We want to ensure that the public service becomes more efficient in terms of how we manage the performance of our public servants, etc. We have a discussion ongoing now when it comes to salary increases. But even with that salary increase, we have to ensure that we can get more from our public servants. And right here in Tobago, I am sure the people of Tobago experience the challenges in terms of the length of time it takes to get certain things done. So we're about trying to improve that. It is always going to be a work in progress. The expectation is that we will make incremental improvements as we go along. As we have done over the last 9 years.
For the digitalization part of the discussion. So there's a challenge that we have, especially in Tobago, where connectivity is concerned because of our geographical nature. And so as we're talking about moving ahead into the digital age, is there any consideration being made to ensure that no matter where you are on the island, you can be connected? Because if we have to go cashless, all of these things that has been proposed over the last few years, we need proper access, as well as the capacity as well, the data capacity.
Yeah. Now, of course, those things are private sector driven and regulated by the government. You have, well, 3 major players in Tobago now. You have Flow, you have AMPLIA, you have Digicel, right? And I think in most cases, you have proper coverage. There are few places on the island where you may get drop-offs, and in some cases a total blackout, and that is something that has to be improved. Of course, the government is committed to working with those entities to ensure that it is improved. But I think the good thing about it is that we have competition, and we have seen in some cases poor service from both providers when it comes to internet, when it comes to cable TV. I think recently we had some issues with Digicel, but the good thing is that people have options. There is competition in the space, and if one plays the fool, then people have the opportunity to change networks. I personally have done so, but it is something that I expect to be improved over time.
Now, another part of the priority 1 statement is, you know, strengthening the Tobago autonomy and the support for the THA. Give us an idea of what does that mean?
Well, we will not drop the autonomy issue. The PNM is committed to this wholeheartedly, and we will continue to fight for it, because that is what has to be done. It has to be fought for. And there are others who are trying to pretend to be fighters for Tobago. There are others like Farley Augustine and the 2 candidates he is putting up in this election who will pretend to have Tobago's interests at heart. But I want the people of Tobago to observe carefully the record and observe carefully the evidence that is before us in terms of what transpired with autonomy. It was the PNM, led by Orville London in Tobago, that has advanced this issue to this point. We started island-wide consultation since 2004. That process was somewhat derailed when Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa became Prime Minister in 2010. Aided and abetted by Ashwood Jack and others, they made an unfortunate decision to carry a bill to Parliament that was totally contrary to the views that were submitted by the people of Tobago through its teacher at the point in time. We somewhat hit the reset button in 2013 with the Forum of Political Parties, again led by Orville London. It included as well Mr. Ho Choi Charles, the late Ho Choi Charles. Ashworth Jack was a part of it for maybe the first 2 meetings, and then he dropped out. And by 2016, we were able to submit a bill representing the wishes, the aspirations, and the views of the people of Tobago to the cabinet led by Dr. Keith Rowley at the time in 2016. And guess what? From the cabinet, it was submitted to the parliament unchanged. And I want to make that point very clear to the people of Tobago, because there are blatant lies being told, and nothing new. They are accustomed lying to the people of Tobago, these TPP people. There's a blatant lie being told that Dr. Rowley and the cabinet made changes to the bills before sending them to the parliament. That is not the case. And this is unlike what happened in 2011 or 2012, I think it was, when we sent a document from Tobago to the Kamla Persad Bisesa cabinet. They made a decision that even before anything went to parliament, they will do their own thing in the cabinet and put out a green paper and then a white paper and all of that. And we saw where that ended. The bills went in 2016 to the parliament, to a joint select committee, unchanged, no interference from the cabinet. Over a period of time, they worked, they consulted, they researched, they had the services of several experts, legal experts, economic experts, maritime experts, etc., to advise us, to advise that joint select committee comprising members of the government, members of the opposition, and members of the independent bench. And I think that process had involved in it 5 Tobagonians. I think the 2 MPs on the PNM side, the current Senate President Nigel De Freitas was a part of that joint select committee, and of course our very own independent Senator Maria Dillon Remy was also part of that process. Dr. Maria Dillon Remy, sorry. So they did what they had to do, and it came down to 2 very potent and powerful bills going to the parliament not once but twice. The bills went in 2021. Fali and Ho Choi Charles created a lot of noise in Tobago. The UNC used that noise. And if Tobagonians were to go back and look at the history and observe what transpired in the parliament, every UNC speaker, I was there, that stood up to speak on that issue said nothing about the bills. They did not mention any clause in the bill. They did not put forward any amendments for the bills. They did not put forward any opinions on the bill. All they said is that the people of Tobago don't want it, and they came to that conclusion because of what Fali said and because of what Ho Choi said. 2 people. The wishes of 60,000 people on the island, right, according to the UNC in the parliament, boiled down to the opinions of 2 individuals, Fali Augustine and Ho Choi Charles. They totally ignored me as the chief secretary at the time. They totally ignored the PNM, right, that was in the THE executive at the time. And they used the statements made by Fali Augustine and Ho Choi Charles to say that people who want the bill, they're not supporting it. We didn't allow it to die. We didn't put it to a vote when we realized what was transpiring there in the parliament. We held it until December last year. It went back. Fali Augustine and this THA ignored that situation for 3 years. No discussions with the government. No submission of any amendments. They ignored it completely for 3 years until the morning of the debate. Parliamentarians sitting in the parliament prepared to debate the most important issue to the people of Tobago. Perhaps the most important bill to be discussed in the parliament for years. And on the morning of the debate, our chief secretary sent a WhatsApp message calling for about 3 or 4 ridiculous amendments to the bills and telling the people in the parliament that if they can't get these amendments, don't support it. That is what transpired. And therefore, we lost the opportunity. Had that bill been passed in the last budget, the THA could have been allocated $4 billion instead of $2.5 billion. The THA would have had the opportunity to make its own laws. The THA would have been given responsibility for a number of areas that we currently do not now have responsibility for.
I see them talking because there are, like, when you look at the THA Act, there are several things in terms of town and country, authority over the airports and seaports and that sort of thing that doesn't currently exist within the scope of work.
So you have to read and interpret the THA Act in conjunction with other legislation. So let's look at the airport, for example. In the THA Act, you have airport and seaports just mentioned there as a fifth schedule item. What exactly does that mean? It means absolutely nothing, especially when you read the act together with the Airports Authority Act that gives responsibility for the airport to the Airports Authority. The same applies to Port Authority. The same applies to WASA. The same applies to, you mentioned another area there, but the same applies to tongue and country. When you read the THA Act, all it says in the fifth schedule is tongue and country. But when you read the Tongue and Country Act, that gives specifics as to who is in charge of what. And there's some misinformation there as well, where people are talking about to get a plan, it has to go to Trinidad to get a plan. That is false. To get a plan approved in Tobago, you go to tongue and country, they send it to public health right here in Tobago, they send it to the THA right here in Tobago, and you get your plan approved. I got a plan approved within a month. Most people get their plans approved within a reasonable time frame in Tobago.
But then what would you say to those Tobagonians who have expressed, Tobagonians that are not with any party, but just regular people, that have expressed the challenges that they face having to journey to Trinidad to deal with some of these issues?
Well, again, most of the issues you should not have to journey to Trinidad for. If people have to journey to Trinidad to get a building plan approved or to get anything approved when it comes to construction, when it comes to land issues, then that may be some kind of special situation that requires some special kind of intervention. But normally, in the normal scheme of things, most Tobagonians do not have to go to Trinidad to get a plan approved for building or for subdivision of land or anything like that. But let's get back to autonomy, because a number of the issues that Farley and they are complaining about now, autonomy would have fixed it. They are saying that they don't get enough money, and I agree that Tobago could do with some more money. But I'm also in agreement that Tobago's problem right now is not a money problem. It's a management problem, because they are actually getting more resources than the previous PNM-THA got for a comparable period. So the question really is priorities. And this thing about certain things having to be done in Trinidad, autonomy would have given Tobago, would have expanded the government of Tobago, because we would have had the opportunity to appoint, I think, up to 15 secretaries, or I think there were no limit on the number of secretaries. I think the limit applies to the number of administrators. So we could expand the government in Tobago and allow for more divisions, taking on more responsibility for some of the issues that currently reside with the central government.
All right, and we're going to have to stick up in there because we do have to go for a break, Mr. Dennis. But viewers, don't worry, we're not done yet, and we're going to be continuing this discussion when we come back just after this.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy felt. I beat it roll, all day we beat it roll, all day I beat it roll, all day we beat it roll. When the spirit it, me I beat it roll, when the spirit it, me I beat it roll, when the spirit it, me I beat it roll. What to do? Let me see how stick you could get, see how stick you could get. Let me see how stick you could, see how stick you could, see how stick you could get. Let me see how stick you could get, see how stick you could get. Let me see how stick you could, see how stick you could, see how stick you could get. Wet me down, 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 wet me down. Right now I'm overheated. Wet me down, wet me down, wet me down, wet me down.
when the game is on. You don't want to miss the best moments. With AMPLIA TV, you can enjoy our ultimate sports package and watch your favorite games on the go. Stay connected and informed with sports news, scores, and stats with AMPLIA's fastest internet speeds. Up to 1 gigabyte fiber internet, you can stream riveting football action, cricket, NBA games, and much more. With AMPLIA, it's game on. Visit amplia.co.tt or call 800-4663. AMPLIA. Do more, live more.
Quartz is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Quartz Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Quartz Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
It's a family affair this Friday, 25th April at the Scarborough Market for the annual Easter Extravaganza. Join us from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for exciting activities for the kids, including an Easter egg hunt, chow and juice making, cupcake decorating, and more. For more information, call 639-1966, extension 3550. This message was brought to you by the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment, and Sustainable Development. Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning with the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, and of course that's Mr. Ansel Dennis. Now, before we went into the break, we were having a discussion about autonomy because, of course, autonomy for Tobago remains one of the most important things to this island and its governance going forward. And we saw what happened over the past few years in terms of that quest for autonomy, going to Parliament, not getting the support in Parliament, but the PNM has said that they are going to continue. Now, one of the things that we were discussing as well, that under the current THA Act, there are certain things listed out in the 5th schedule that gives the THA some power, but of course, based on how the law is written in the Constitution, there might be some clash as to who really has the authority. Now, one of the things that Mr. Ho Choi Charles, the late Mr. Ho Choi Charles, used to say is that when it comes to these things like town and country and so on, and even authority over the ports, Tobago should be given that authority. At some point, Tobago did have authority over town and country. At least that's what he communicated back when we had a lot of these discussions. Now, why is it that we can't have an arrangement, even now, seeing as how that there is some provision for at least cooperation within the law? Why can't we have some of that happening now?
Well, it already happens. As I said before, Tobago has a certain level of responsibility, significant responsibility, when it comes to tongue and country issues. I just spoke about the involvement of public health and the THA. The THA must sign off if you are to get any kind of development approval in Tobago. So there is involvement and there is collaboration. I think what we're talking about is complete control. And what we have at this time is administrative responsibility. The autonomy bills that were not supported by FALI would have given Tobago and its government greater responsibility, especially through lawmaking powers. Now, let me explain something. It is one thing to list items under the 5th schedule, and it's another thing to list those items under another schedule in another bill that provides us with lawmaking powers. That is where the real authority comes. Administrative powers versus lawmaking powers. Two completely different things. And I'm saying that the bills that were shelved, the bills that were undermined by Farley Augustine, and recently we discovered that that was in partnership with the UNC, those bills would have improved our situation greatly when it comes to the availability of money, when it comes to the ability to make laws, when it comes to the ability to control and make decisions on some of those very issues that we are discussing now. Those bills would have changed the situation greatly.
Now, I want to move a little bit away from autonomy to some of the other issues that we have in the space, and that was mentioned in manifesto. And I'm jumping ahead to priority 5, when it discusses that of land ownership and so on. And we know the situation here in Tobago where there's so much of land that continues to not have its regularization sorted. And of course, it is a challenge when it comes to investment and moving forward as a people and so on. Now, I know this was something that was spoken about by, or at least acknowledged by the PNM in the past, both in Parliament and on the platform. But how are we going to go ahead fixing this? And then why should we trust you to fix it after 10 years of not seeing much movement on that issue?
Well, actually, it is not accurate to say 10 years of not much movement. There was legislation passed in the Parliament to treat with that specific issue, and a number of people have been able to benefit from that legislation through RPO and those kinds of mechanisms to ensure that we were able to treat with these issues. Now, I think one of the main issues has to do with education and educating people on what is available and what needs to be done. A number of Tobagonians simply do not. And I am probably guilty of that, because the house where I grew up in Buku, I was born in 1987. Of course, my mother built a house on her father's land, right? And currently that is not in my mother's name. It is not in my name either. It is perhaps still in my grandfather's name. And that is because nobody took the effort to go and fix that situation. And it can be fixed under the laws currently. It can be fixed. It just requires some resources to go and do the surveys. And I think it was started, but we just didn't complete it. And a number of Tobagonians are in the same position, where we simply do not go and do what needs to be done, right? But things were done under this government during this period. We passed new legislation to treat with that problem. And it's an issue that we will continue to ensure that we put other programs in place. I think there is a need for educating people on what needs to be done and how they should go about doing it. And people need to simply make the effort to go and regularize their tenureship in Tobago.
No, and again, just sifting through the document, the manifesto that you guys have here, and when it comes to tourism, things like ecotourism and so on, some of the goals mentioned are expanding, community coaching for sport leadership, Tobago Food and Rum Festival, year-round cultural calendar, to position Tobago as a prime global tourism and yachting destination, and to develop a dedicated Tobago ecotourism circuit. Now, I noted with interest that there wasn't a mention made to sort of to legislate that bill that was made by the THA, I think back in 2020 or maybe 2019, where Tobago should have authority over its marine parks, for instance, like the Buku Reef and so on, which is important for making sure we can manage the tourism product that is there. Why wasn't that mentioned as something that the PNM is taking seriously to perhaps take to Parliament to give THA that
because
Commission.
the PNM central government and the parliament should have no business taking such a legislation to parliament. That legislation should be dealt with in Tobago by Tobago's government or Tobago's assembly. And that is why our interest is really in autonomy, because autonomy will allow the people elected in Tobago to deal with all those issues. I've said, and I will say it again today, that currently we just cannot make laws in Tobago without the parliament's involvement. It is there in the THA Act. The most you could do in the THA now is go put on your nice clothes, your jacket and your tie and your nice power suits for the females. You go in there, you stand up, you debate, you talk for a few minutes. I think the speaking time now is 30 minutes per speaker. You have a debate 4 hours long, 5 hours long, 6 hours long. You may decide that instead of a motion, you want to carry a bill to be passed. We carried a bill when I was Chief Secretary. Back in Mr. London's time, I think they carried about 3 bills.
Yes.
3 years has passed and this administration has not debated one bill in the THA. But the reality is when you debate that bill and you adopt it in the assembly, it has to go to cabinet. And cabinet will then decide if it gets on the agenda in parliament. That's what the law says. And autonomy would have fixed that. We would have removed the cabinet and the parliament in Trinidad and Tobago totally from the equation. And when it comes to issues like tourism, marine resources, the environment, and all those areas of responsibility that the THA would have, and all those areas that would have been given lawmaking powers for, we would have been in a position to go to the THA like big men and big women, debate bills, and pass them as law on the island of Tobago.
Now, in lieu of us not having that autonomy and that lawmaking power, because it's not happening right now, and I think you would have mentioned during some of the consultations last year that if the bills don't pass, then you have to start the whole process over again, and it might be some more years before there could be something that could possibly be accepted by all. But in lieu of all of that, why not, you know, put an emphasis in taking some of that to parliament, because management of our marine areas, marine parks, are very, very crucial to Tobago's development.
Well, we currently have some management of it. And I'm saying with the loss of the autonomy bills, the fact that those bills were not passed in December 2024, the reality is yes, Tobago will be set back for, I hope it's not too many years.
But again, I understand where you're coming with the autonomy, but then why not try to, because shouldn't it be for the development of Tobago?
Right. And again, the central government has limitations. Now, in Tobago, the THA is responsible for tourism. Now, of course, there are certain things that the central government will do. We've brought Sandals to the table. They left because of mischief. They're back on the table now. And the only reason we could have done that is because the land is owned by the government through a company. We brought Marriott. Marriott is going through the environmental approvals process. Again, the only way we could have done that is because the government owns that parcel of land in Rocky Point. We attempted to bring a marina. We are committing to bringing that marina at some point. We are committing as well to ensuring that Tobago gets the resources required to drive our tourism in a particular way. I was part of the THA when we sat with the Ministry of Tourism, with the Minister of Tourism, and we negotiated certain things. We negotiated as well at one point in time to collaborate on regulation for the tourism sector. All of those things were shelved when this THA came in. There were other areas of collaboration for the tourism sector that were shelved. So those collaborations will continue. But again, I'm saying that the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago has its agenda. If you follow the Parliament, you will realize that a lot of the legislations going to the Parliament are legislations having to do with crime and fixing crime, bail amendment, anti-gang legislation, FATCA legislation, explain your wealth legislation. Those are the things that the Parliament will focus on, the national agenda. And yes, from time to time, some localized issues, especially issues relating to Tobago, could be the focus in the Parliament, such as the autonomy bills. But the point remains that without autonomy, Tobago will continue to be set back in terms of our development, in terms of us being able to take responsibility for our destiny on this island.
Now, what about the argument coming from the business community that who has been very vocal in the past 12 years or so about removing the current Land License Act that makes it difficult or cumbersome for foreign direct investors to come into this space? And like I said, that's been a call, no matter the administration, it's been a call, and they continue to maintain that. But I know that has not been listed here, even when
well, if we are honest, right, all that act does is that it prescribes certain areas that allows for investment, or that allows basically foreigners to purchase land. Foreigners are not allowed to buy land anywhere in Tobago, right? Now, the problem really is the time that it takes to get the approval. And that issue is not necessarily the law. Now, I'm in agreement that the law has to be looked at. And while the law was good back then, we have to do an assessment to determine if that kind of legislation is still required at this point in time. But the issue really is the time that it takes to get those approvals. And that is something that we discussed while I was in the THA. And again, we were collaborating on advancing those issues and making certain arrangements to change it. And my suspicion is that all those areas of collaboration fell down when this new administration came into office. So we will continue as a central government to push Tobago and to push Tobago's development. All the projects that we have done were not done by chance. It was not out of VAPs, but it was part of a whole package, a suite of projects that we believed as a central government that we could have done for Tobago, because it is not everything that the central government could do in Tobago. The THA has most of the responsibilities in Tobago, which they are not doing well. The THA has responsibility for roads, they have responsibility for schools, they have responsibility for sporting facilities, they have responsibility for your community facilities, etc., which they are not doing well. The central government can do certain things, and we have done certain things. We're in charge of WASA. We invested millions of dollars in that company, that state enterprise, to ensure that we improve the water situation in Tobago. We have responsibility for the airport, we have responsibility for national security, we have responsibility for the Dwight York Stadium, the only sporting facility that we have responsibility for in Tobago. We are investing millions of dollars in that to ensure that it is improved and upkept. Again, I want to make the point because I want to drive it home.
And that would be how we could close the show this morning.
The failure to support, right, and the blame will fall squarely at the feet of this Chief Secretary Farley Augustine, because Ochoy Charles made the point in 2013 that we will not get autonomy in Tobago if we do not speak with one united voice. And that is what the Forum of Political Parties was about. It was about accepting that we had to put aside the colors and the party names and the party symbols and speak with one voice as Tobagonians on the autonomy issues, with the understanding as well that we may not agree on every area, because it is impossible. All of us sitting in this studio, if you will ask, well, what is the best way to manage Tobago in terms of further autonomy, everybody will have a different answer. So you will never have unity in terms of the thinking and the opinions, but you can have unity in terms of unifying behind a specific position. We had that in 2016 when that bill went to the cabinet, with the understanding that we will put our best case forward. The Parliament has ultimate responsibility. They will do their work, they will seek advice, because there were some things that we were not even sure on. But we decided here, what we will put our best case forward, the Parliament will work it out. And it is quite unfortunate and treacherous to the people of Tobago for the Chief Secretary to undermine that process and undermine the people of Tobago by extension in that way, by ensuring with the help of his UNC colleagues that those bills were not passed.
And on that point, we're going to have to end the show this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for being on with us. But viewers, Tobago Updates is not done yet. We continue to have conversations and, bring you information so that, you can make your informed decision about who you want to take Tobago forward and Trinidad and Tobago forward as a whole over the next 5 years. So while GMT is over, we've got more. So stay tuned. Bye for now.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power, we are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers, we are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we're stronger. Good morning Tobago. Good morning Tobago. Good morning Tobago.
So today, as we converge here at the Victor E. Bruce Financial Complex to culminate the commemoration of Global Money Week through our Smart Sense Video Challenge prize giving ceremony, we recognize the importance of financial literacy in shaping a secure and successful future.
I feel heartened, excited, and I'm indeed happy because when I looked at the goal of Global Money Week, the goal really is to ensure that all children and young people have access to high quality financial information and education that allows them to make smart financial decisions that can improve their future financial resilience and financial well-being. Today, I'm also heartened to see the students that are represented here today, that we are able to hone the skills that you have embedded inside of you. And from what I've heard, I'm indeed proud, and I feel a sense of accomplishment that with financial literacy and the mandate that we have here in the division, that we are able to bear this kind of fruit and see these kinds of results.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
This week started off quite busy. Finance Minister, the Honorable Com Imbert, presented the 2025 national budget, and we have the THA Executive Council's immediate response to it. We're also sharing with you the event that kicked off World Food Day celebrations 2024 in Tobago and exercise sessions you should be a part of. This is 116.
Six. Beautiful island.
Finance
Finance Minister, the Honorable Colm Imbert, presented the 2025 National Budget on Monday, September 30th, 2024. Following his 5-hour-long presentation, the THA Executive Council gave an immediate response through the Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy, Councillor Petalan Roberts. Here's some of what she had to say.
In June, we presented a budget unlocking Tobago's development potential, a budget of $3.8 billion, of which 2.8 was for recurrent expenditure and 1 billion was for development program expenditure. And today what we sat and listened to was a cut of about $1.2 billion of that presentation. All our work programs, plans now have to be reworked to a budget that is just over $2.5 billion. We have also seen a slash of about 21% in our development program. Tobago, $205 million cannot sustain you. $205 million cannot build Tobago's economy. It cannot enhance the infrastructure of Tobago. It cannot improve the public service. It cannot transform the Tobago economy and provide opportunities for you, Tobago. There was no clear vision. There was no strategy. We have no idea what the government has planned for the country for fiscal 2025. All we sat for close to 6 hours is to just hear what the minister has done throughout his career. And as I said, it was empty and lengthy.
You can view the THA Executive Council's response to the national budget, the full response, on the Office of the Chief Secretary's Facebook page. THA Chief Administrator Mrs. Denise Tobikwashi met with the new ACP in charge of the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Oswayne Suberu, and the new Senior Superintendent, Earl Eli. The meeting was held on Monday, September 30th in the Administrator's Office, Hochoi Charles Administrative Complex. AI Dicot will host its first open house at Cove on Wednesday, October 9th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. At this open house, you can learn about financing, becoming a tenant, and more. Tobago's World Food Day celebrations 2024 began on Thursday, October 3rd with the hosting of a green market at the Kendall Farm School. It was an amazing opportunity to support local farmers and agro-processors. Here's some of what went down. Tobagonian footballers Sid Gray and Kelvin Charles of the Division of Education, Research and Technology are in charge of executing the division's football programs across schools in Tobago. These dedicated sports officers are committed to nurturing the next generation of footballers. So if you're looking for an opportunity to get a workout in at only $10 per session, then join the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection's Dance Dressage. It's happening every Tuesday and Thursday from 4:30 p.m. at the Division's main office compound in Glen Road. I encourage you to join the sessions and get moving. And that's where we leave you for this week's episode of 116. It's always a pleasure keeping you abreast of all things THA in bite-sized pieces. Remember, if you're not following us on our social media platforms, please do so now so you never miss anything we post. I'm Patricia Nicholson-Richards, and I'll see you in our next episode.
Can you believe we're on episode 10 already, guys? Where is the time going? But hey, you know we've always got you covered with everything THA. We had a very short work week after a long weekend. but there was still plenty happening. So let's dive into it. This is 116.
Six. Beautiful island.
The Muslim community held their celebrations, Eid al-Fitr, which marked the end of the holy month of Ramadan. The celebrations in Tobago took place at the Masjid Al-Tawbah, located in Lowlands.
What struck me as quite instructive is that on one occasion I sat with the Imam, and I was there discussing Bible, he was there discussing the Quran, and we were comparing beliefs, comparing teachings, and it was happening all peacefully, without anger, and with respect for each other's belief. That to me is one of the great things that as a country we can offer the rest of the world.
Happy Eid! And then we had members of the Spiritual Baptist faith celebrating 74 years of freedom to practice their religion openly.
They try to silence a people, but faith cannot be shackled.
Baptists came from a long way. Slavery ended. So now that the slavery was abolished and people start moving about a little more freely, then they realize that they can meet others, and so they start to worship as they're accustomed to it. Because when Africans came here, they came with a culture, they came with a religion, they came with a name. We lose all of those except the religion.
The Tobago Main Ridge Forest Fitness Challenge brought together fitness enthusiasts for an endurance adventure through the historic Main Ridge Forest Reserve. Participants celebrated the reserve's 249th anniversary with this fun and exciting event, blending fitness with conservation. And just like that, the long weekend was over and it was back to work. So the Tobago Festivals Commission Limited held a press conference to inform the public that headliner for the Tobago Rhythm and Soul Festival, Buju Banton, will no longer be performing at the event due to a close friend of his being really ill. However, son of the legendary Bob Marley, Stephen Marley, was added to the cast.
Every day we pay the price, living sacrifice, jamming till the jam is true. Ooh yeah, we're jamming. Yeah.
Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Councillor Tasha Boris, was recently featured in the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Women's Magazine for recognition of her leadership. This solidifies Tobago's position as a major competitor in the tourism market. Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy, Councillor Petalan Roberts, and the Business Development Unit recently donated $3,000 to West Side Prep to help fund a sensory room for children with autism.
You know, wood fire? Wood fire.
Wood fire?
Yeah.
What is that?
Wood fire.
Wood fire.
Mhm.
Like, but we don't have stuff like that now? Like wood fire.
Yeah, not really. All they don't do that anymore. It's just gas nowadays.
Really? So how you all used to do it in Jamaica?
So basically, family members used to like go in the hills and like cut trees that dry already, and then they put their hoods together and then cook, light a stove and cook. That is the best cooking food. Gas.
I am from Trinidad. I am actually in Tobago celebrating my 27th wedding anniversary with my wife. Back in the day, we used to spin top. I had a wooden top with a metal end, and you had to wrap the twine a particular way around the metal end and then wrap it around the wooden part and then spin it. Right? My daddy, I think he taught me how to spin top, right? I think so. So if there's one thing that I would bring back would be spinning top.
A footsie.
because it's a game that a lot of children don't know what it is from after the 80s, early 80s or wherever. Nobody knows about it. I have one home that I bought to teach my girls, but then they just grow up so fast and never get to teach them.
Blockos.
Oh my God! Why?
Because it's community, like you don't know your neighbor anymore. That's half of the reason we have crime, because you know who's who. And if we was doing communal things, people wouldn't need to have as much crime because they know where our plate of food coming from. So.
Well, my son is now 35. And when he was about maybe 7, he came home with a factory-made top, one of those from China, and asked me, what is that? And I was kind of surprised. And he said, no, you don't. I said, you don't know what is that? He said, no. I said, that's a top. And I cut a piece of guava wood, which is traditional for us. And I made a top and spin it that he could see what we used to do. But now I'm in my mid-60s, and I just thought I wanted the young folks, the little guys in Plymouth, to know what we used to do, like spinning up the top and so forth.
Oh my goodness, my also trend is bringing back childhood games with your neighborhood friends and family. Yeah, like pitch, moral, and footsie. Footsie.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode of 116. If you've missed any of our episodes, you can view them all on our social media platforms. Also, we're now on WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp channel, so go follow us there and stay updated. I'm Patricia Nicholson-Richards, and we'll catch up in our next episode.
On and technologically advanced healthcare, a digitized form of governance, a society where people can self-actualize and grow and develop, a society where our economy grows, and our economy growing works in tandem with population growth and so on. So they are all achievable deliverables for the island of Tobago. The challenge we have with creating the greatest little island on the planet, I think our biggest challenge is that Tobago does not now have its autonomy to execute some of the things and the vision that we have always had for ourselves. And I don't think for a second that Farley is the first man with the vision. I don't think I have a copyright on what a great Tobago can look like. Many before me had that vision, but many before me have stopped short of being able to accomplish that. Because if we don't have the room to be able to accomplish it, the wiggle room to achieve it, if we don't have the ability to execute the things ourselves, then there will always be a challenge. And I'll just give one example. If we can wake up in the morning and decide to sign an agreement and get a flight landing in Tobago from a foreign country without obstruction or permission from someone else, somewhere else, then we really have to ask ourselves, how far can we go with tourism? So yes, we have the big vision, but every time we have this big vision, it has to become it has to be scaled back to the reality that someone somewhere else pulls the strings and determines how fast and how far we can go. And the truth is, if people in the other place don't want us to be great, don't want us to go far or fast, they could stymie every single effort that we have. And that's why this election for me is so important. And yes, for most Tobagonians, we harp on the THA elections because you get most of your sustenance from the Tobago House of Assembly. But this one is critical because here we are trying to pick two people in a parliament of 40.
impacting and finding its root in the population from the grassroots level to as far as possible?
Well, before I answer that question, let me start by welcoming our television audience and our audience where we already had an audience on Facebook, but we have additional audiences on Facebook and on YouTube, on the TPP pages, Tobago Updates. We welcome you, Tobago Updates, as well. I don't know if this is the beginning of something great. You know, TPP, we make great things happen. So this is partnership between two independent media houses, like never before.
Well, I probably have a future in media going forward.
So I want to welcome our live audience on YouTube, on Facebook, on Tobago Updates, on television, wherever you are looking from around the world. Welcome. At the heart of the question that you have just asked is how do I get Tobagonians to believe in this dream? How do I get Tobagonians to believe that it's possible for them? Yes, I have that resolve that it is possible, and that is intrinsic. But how do I infect the rest of the population with this sort of hopeful spirit and faith that I have, knowing full well that many in the population have experienced disappointment over a number of years, and there are so many in our population that have lived through all the different iterations, perhaps from 1976 with Robinson and Murray all the way to now, and so by now they're tired, fatigued, and so how do I get these people to believe that we could still do it, we could actually do it? And I'll admit to you that that's the greatest challenge that I have. Yes, the fact that people voted overwhelmingly for us in 2021, that's a good sign and a good start. That people listen, and on the surface people believe that we can actually do it. The next task is to get people to believe that some of the perhaps better medicine that is required, that some of the transformational projects and ideas and rules changing must happen for us to get to that place. And that's the more difficult task I think that we have. And let me probably break it down some more. It is easy for the population to say we want change. And there are days I ask myself if people really voted for a change or if they just wanted an exchange. Because I see sometimes the same, and it breaks my heart, sometimes the same people who are my biggest supporters sometimes demand the things that we campaigned against. The things that I said not good for the development of the island. That won't make us the greatest little island on the planet. And so it requires a re-education of the re-educating of the population of the population, to get the population to appreciate that if we are to move from where we are to the next place that we dream of, then it requires that we change our modus operandi, change the way we operate, and change the way we do business. So it means therefore that if we are accustomed building a society where we go and we work for 30 minutes in the morning and get back home, that we don't have to be committed to move from 30 minutes to some hours. And so when early in the game I saw a petition actually come complaining from some category of workers that the supervisors were making them work longer hours. I said, but this can't be what you voted for. You have to know that I can't go out there and run away after half an hour and expect the road to be clean. So on one hand, we don't want to see the heaps of garbage on the side of the road. We want the drains to clean on time. We want the verges and so on and the roadsides to be cut back and cleared ever so often and quickly and efficiently. But we can't get that if we insist on doing things the way we always did things. And I'm saying throughout this campaign and saying to Tobagonians, I'm not coming here to say to you, just vote for me and I'll give you all the jobs you want. Vote for me and I'll allow you to do whatever you want. Vote for me and it will be a sort of euphoric paradise. And that might be doubling up on two words that mean the same thing. But I'm saying vote for us because we want to guide you in the right direction. We want to put you in a place where you'll be better off than where you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Vote for us because we believe we have what it takes to negotiate a new deal for Tobago. Vote for us because we believe that we can go to the parliament, use our 2 seats to negotiate for the things that we really, really want. And I want people to compare the 2 campaigns. One campaign, and I'm saying 2 campaigns because I think this is a fight between 2 parties essentially.
Pretty much, yes.
One campaign tried to build a platform on personal attacks.
Sure.
And they did it either directly or through proxies.
Right.
One campaign tried to build the platform on twisting words and taking words from here, there, and everywhere and trying to create a narrative and match it with other people and all sort of thing. That's how one campaign tried to build a platform. And then the other campaign, our campaign, we went out there night after night trying to deal with different issues that affect the lives of everyday Tobagonians and how in the national parliament those are issues to be fixed there, starting with the autonomy issue, looking at state companies run by the cabinet like Caribbean Airlines and Wassa and Tiantec, looking at issues such as those in the 7th schedule where the law says those services should be provided in Tobago, looking at Studley Park and having the license to export, looking at the delivery, the on-time delivery according to the law of our releases from the parliament, from the central government, from the Ministry of Finance, looking at what the allocation should be and what it is now and what it could be and how much difference that will make for the lives of Tobagonians, breaking down for Tobagonians how we take the monies we receive and how we try to stretch it. So, for example, last night I had to explain.
And I wanted you to kind of revisit that perhaps in a capsule manner.
Last night I had to explain, look, it is not true that the vast majority of contracts we have given out went to Trinidadians. The evidence and the numbers showed that it's in the minority. But more than that, I also had to explain how when we get our releases, if it is that the division has vacancies for 500 people, we have decided to stretch it and give 1,000 people half a loaf each, with it 10 on 10 off. And it's not because we think that is ideal for you, but we have an appreciation for where our economy is.
And there's a crisis situation
post-COVID, and the fact that we need to give everybody a piece of the pie. And I'm saying to Tobagonians, the vote for the Tobago People's Party is not a vote that says magically everything will be well, but it's a vote for people who are saying that we are willing to go to the parliament, do the dirty work, and get the job done. And what we really need are really 2 men who will go down in the trenches, and do the heavy lifting. This is not a period for fancy talk. It's a period for really us going and putting in the work and getting it done.
Indeed. And I remembered when the people of Tobago pretty much changed their allegiance, for want of a better phrase, from moving from the Hotel Charge era to the Orville London era. And one of the things that they were saying is that they tired with this abrasive kind of a leadership and all that, and this antagonistic approach, and they did a diplomatic approach. And so the people opted for the Orville London type of leadership and so on. But we've seen that those conversations has not gotten us any significant place. So the things that really matter to the Tobago people and their ultimate development. So the other question, Chief Secretary, is 2021 we saw an overwhelming movement, right? This movement of the Tobago people in mass to vote in a different way. We have a different government in office. Since we've been in office, there's been some disillusionment. Perhaps, I sometimes wonder if in our campaign, if we were over ambitious in the things that we were selling, or just as I said earlier, we have this in our mind's eye, this dream about dreaming big and selling a big dream to the Tobago people. What is your sense now of the temperature of the population? Is there a revival or a continuation of that same kind of vigilance and excitement from 2021? Has there been a lull? Has the campaign and the information you've been putting in the space now reinvigorated that kind of energy from back then?
I see this campaign has been almost like a revival meeting.
Right.
And the truth is, sometimes I'm guilty of making too many of my references perhaps biblical. But forgive me, is one of the few things I know.
Right.
But it has been a revival of sorts. Has there been some attrition in terms of support? Absolutely. Have there been people who feel a sense of disappointment? Absolutely. There has been some of that. Have we always walked perfectly and upright? Absolutely not. Have we made mistakes over the last 3 years? Absolutely.
Yes.
Are there things that we should change, or I would change if there is a do-over? Oh, most definitely. But I'm saying that we remain still the best option that there is.
Right.
And let me explain why we remain the best option and why we must remain steadfast to this revolution. Number one, Tobago needs an indigenous party to move its agenda.
Right.
The Tobago agenda never moves in the national parliament, save and except it's led by an indigenous type of arrangement. The history shows us that. 1976, DAC, 2 seats, completely in opposition, not even opposition leader, not enough seats to be opposition leader, but 2 were enough to make a difference in the parliament to bring about Act number 37 of 1980 that gave rise to the first Tobago House of Assembly. 1996, it was 17-17-2. And yes, while NAR was supposed to be a national party, NAR by that time had withered away into a Tobago party. Because remember, after 1991, NAR moved from 33-3 to literally only getting 2 seats, and the opposition party becoming the now UNC, founded by Basdio Pandey. So by 1996, now essentially was a Tobago only party. And again, we ended up with Act 40 of 1996. 2 in a parliament using their seats and the position to negotiate a new deal and expanded Tobago House of Assembly, new authority for the people of Tobago. From 2001 to 2021, we essentially had the PNM in charge in Tobago. During that period, for only 5 years of their 21 years, we had the same PNM in power in Tobago as in Trinidad.
Right.
We got no movement.
Indeed.
During the 5 years, we had a separate government in Trinidad. A bill was offered, and the opposition walked out on it. During that 21 years, former Chief Secretary Mr. London, he did, and I would give him credit for that, the single largest, most widespread consultation of the people of Tobago to gauge what the people of Tobago want in terms of autonomy. That was sent down to Parliament, PNM-THA, to a PNM-led Parliament. And when it got there, they took it, they shredded it apart, changed what they want, took out what they want, and tossed what they did not want. And then it evolved to what was brought last year, in the dying stages of the ex-Prime Minister's career as Prime Minister, in hopes that we will just blindly say yes. But it still did not yield the results that the people of Tobago wanted. And I'm saying respectfully, while I give commendation to Mr. London and his efforts and his work, and I like to be magnanimous, and I also like to respect things that were done well, right? The fact is, he had the most widespread consultation ever. And I am saying, since that time, we have not had any consultation that trumps that. Not even the Prime Minister's Constitutional Committee had consultation in Tobago sufficient to change what Tobagonians said in Signal Hill they want it. And they said that to Orville, they said that to Hochoy, they said that to Dr. Levis Guy, and all of those who were in that room, Mr. Alan Richards, and all of those who were part of that committee. And I'm saying that is our only starting point at this point. Nobody else have any authority to change that and to say this is what we're going to put without first consulting the people of Tobago.
Right.
And so I'm saying respectfully, given that the only 2 times we got movements for Tobago in a substantial way were when we actually picked people who ended up in a minority position.
Yes.
And we picked an indigenous Tobago party to do so. We need to pick an indigenous Tobago party right now.
Agreed.
So that's a starting point.
Agreed.
Second to that, not all indigenous Tobago parties. We know PNM is not an indigenous Tobago party.
Right.
So we could put an X by that or cross that out.
Right.
When we look at the other indigenous Tobago parties, not a single one of them is structured adequately to represent this democracy. None of the others have a living constitution. And those, or the one with a so-called constitution, has a dictatorship for leadership. None others have had internal elections among the members, have had a democratic process for selection of candidates. None of the others have had that. We are the only indigenous Tobago party that is organized, that is ready to represent the people of Tobago in the national parliament.
Got you.
Now, that might change 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but as of now, what we have on the ballot paper, where we have 2 candidates appearing second to last on both ballot papers for Tobago East, ballot paper for Tobago West, where we have an anchor covered in a black box, so to speak, based on what I've seen.
Yes.
The reality is that is the only choice for indigenous, well-structured, well-organized, democratic leadership to represent the people of Tobago in the national parliament. I'm begging Tobagonians, that is what we need. And I am challenging the other parties. I'm challenging you. Let us go on the platform over this weekend. I'm challenging them. And let us discuss the issues of what Tobagonians want. Let's discuss that. I'm challenging them. I'm challenging them. Because I am confident. I'm confident, not just in my articulation of the matter, but I'm confident that we are more substantive on the matter. And for me, that is what is critical in this election. And that's why I'm asking Tobagonians, if you have not listened to our platform before, listen to it when we meet on Saturday night.
Good.
Let's listen to it.
So I want you to ventilate to other matters as we go in further. Now, of course the new Prime Minister, who was the then minister, still is as a matter of fact the Minister of Energy and Energy Affairs, and so on. And the matter of, so in the Tobago context, we have a resource challenge. Perhaps one of our greatest potential earner that would have impacted and can impact the Tobago's economy is Spell. And there has been a refusal to grant Spell mining license and export license. A refusal, we dare say, that was not there before when the former regime was in power. So the former regime had the benefit of grace, apparently. So there seems to be this selective vigilance, I call it, to now try to pressure this new regime and so on. I believe it is all part of the conspiracy, obviously, to kind of keep us in subservience. Talk about that, and talk about the PNM's message, the Prime Minister and others coming to Tobago to tell Tobagonians vote for the PNM when one, they have been underfunding the government and the government activities in Tobago, and also preventing possible on land in Tobago activities that can contribute to the economy of Tobago. Talk about that.
Sure. You see, I believe PNM likes the centralization of power. They don't like decentralized power. They don't like devolving responsibilities to others.
Right.
Their political philosophy is that power must be kept at the center, so that they can operate and lead as strong men and strong women. That does not work for the advancement of Tobago.
Right.
And let's use Spell as an example. When I go to the 7th schedule of the THA Act, the 7th schedule of the THA Act says that services to be performed or delivered in Tobago. Number 12 on that list says the ministry responsible for industry and commerce in respect of the granting of licenses. I am 100% sure that the Ministry of Trade does not perform their services in Tobago for the granting of licenses. So I start there.
Right.
But nonetheless, we apply through the Ministry of Trade to get the license to export. Now, Spell is in a catch-22 situation. We need to invest in new plants so we can ramp up production.
Right.
But we also need sufficient sales or predictability of sufficient sales to be able to generate the capital upfront for the new and additional plants to drive the growth in Studley Park.
Right.
So we apply for the export license. We know we have a problem with US dollars and Forex. Spell can help with that situation. Certainly in Tobago it can. Spell gives us an opportunity to diversify the Tobago economy away from just tourism. Spell gives us the opportunity for several downstream things, meaning that through Spell we could do more than just aggregate. We can do commercial products like countertops, like sandpaper. Like there are several things we can do with quarrying material beyond just selling raw aggregates. So all of those things are in the conversation. Also in the conversation is the possibility of renaming it from Spell and looking at the whole issue of just quarrying and looking for other areas around the island with similar or even better quality material that we can also extract and creates a living industry around the thing. The law also says that for every business operating in Tobago, the taxes must be paid in Tobago.
Right.
So Spell should be paying their taxes in Tobago through the THA, as is down at Victor Bruce there. And once it's paid in Tobago, it stays in Tobago. And 2, Spell should be applying ordinarily in Tobago for their license.
Right.
We have done everything they want us to do, except go on our knees and beg. And the answer remains no. And I feel as though that no is to make us weak and powerless.
Sure.
And I have an issue with that. Because I am of the view that one should allow us to fail on our own accord. Don't try to arrange the system in which we operate in such a way that we must fail so that you will have a chance to get back in power. Give us a chance to govern freely.
It's a siege, Chief Secretary. It's a siege, It's a siege.
But that's unpatriotic.
Yes, it's a siege.
And let me say this, and I'll give an example. I think I made it on the platform in Castara. I remember when I was a minority assemblyman, people don't even understand the difficulties of that. But I'm a minority assemblyman. I don't have much going on for me. I don't have any other income. And yes, it was a hope and dream for my party to make it into government.
Right.
But when they were starting up this thing with the Man and the Biosphere project, the Department of Environment, they came to me. They had different forms to sign up and so on, to show support, to show, well, the area rep is supporting the project. They needed community consultations. And I never one day thought, maybe I should find a way to not make this happen so they're going to look bad. I say, this is a brilliant idea. As a matter of fact, when we were having a launch soon after we came into office, I went on record as bigging up and thanking Kwesi Devines for his work on this project. Because to me, loving my island means that I will celebrate and support something that good, even if it didn't come from me.
Right.
So I can't understand for the life of me. We're trying to build a road. You send all the agencies of state to stop it. We're trying to get spell expanded, but you're saying no, and refusing. No good excuse. We're trying to get flights here before we could even properly negotiate this thing. You jump out to say Farley and them can't sign nothing. Right? He and them civil aviation. And my thing is, why is there such an obsession with the government failing? And here it becomes even more absurd. There are contracts that the former regime put in place that were bad contracts. Let me say it now. They sign away hundreds of millions of dollars, give contracts to contractors, no scope of work. So nothing to measure them by. No proper, no tendering at all. They just handpick them and give them. No QS ain't got nowhere about to measure the work. I have seen instances where they sign off and kilometer road and the road woefully short of a kilometer, which means they ain't even going to run a yard tape to measure the road. We are being sued on the back end to pay some of these contracts. And when they are administrative faux pas or administrative negligence allowing us to lose those cases, I am seeing the same people celebrating as though it's a good thing. I'm saying you should have been, if you really believe in Tobago, you should have been saying sue them fairly, win them fairly. You should have been standing on our side. You pay for a zip line that we can't see all now. We in court. The court say okay, don't sue the individual name out and only sue the company he was doing business with. That is all the court case say, I see these same unpatriotic worms celebrating as though something good happened. And I say, well, you just spent hundreds of thousands of US dollars for a product we don't have. And you are celebrating a defeat. You clearly don't believe in Tobago.
There's something wrong with that.
And I've been on record. You know what I've said? I've said the central government suing people left, right, and center over EMBD and what happened there. And I don't know the intricacies of the case. I don't know whether or not the government has a case. But I'm saying if the government did the audits and find that something went wrong, the government have a right to sue them. And I don't have to support PNM to say that. I don't have to support Stuart Young to say that. I don't have to believe that Rowley was the greatest prime minister to say that. I just have to believe in my country to say that. And I'm saying...
And is that wrong or right?
And for me, patriotism has to trump everything else. And this is what this election has to be about. Patriotism.
Chief, now, the time of our way does run in this studio.
Well, I hear they say we could go as long as we want today, and whenever we're done, we're done.
What? Don't make joke. All right. Well, we inside. We inside. So now, as you segue into that, because I myself have gone physically and seen some of the issues, the what's the word? I want a word. The obscenities with some of these contracts. And so I remember I went to a particular road in Mary's Hill where we have the documents and the road has been paid for about 2 million something for the road, complete, and it's mud. You understand? Mud that you see, and I have spoken on more than one occasions about a road done in the district, Bethel New Grange. There's a road there in that we call Sesame Street. A road was needed because that road actually was a cul-de-sac for many years, so that road was needed. So the issue is not the importance of the road. The road, according to the documentation, the contractor received $13 million thereabout for the road, and that was one of the roads that red flags were raised over. When we went and checked the documentation and the experts that went to test the veracity of the work and that kind of thing, said the road actually is valued about let me say $2 million, right? The road is valued at. That regime pay in 3 invoices, 13 point something million dollars for that road. But here the next thing, here the thing that really got to me, because these are Tobago contractors, and it has been said that Tobago contractors and they are painted as these angels of contract. The main contractor subcontracted the work to another contractor in Tobago and paid the contractor $475,000 to do the road. Right? They charge the THA $13 million. The contractor that actually do the work, the completion certificates are $475,000. So, as we were breaking it down last night about the contractors in Tobago as against the contractors in Trinidad and so on, who did work and under whose purview the work were done, I would like you to jump into that, Chief Secretary. Let's put that information in the public space,
sure, no problem,
and treat with this misinformation that has been put there upon Tobago.
So what I did last night is that I asked Secretary Roberts from Finance to pull together for me the data to show approximately how much we spend on tendered contracts from our development votes. And let me preface it by saying, from development, we spent over the last 4 years about $280 million on labor, on employment, what we call development workers.
Right.
Another considerable sum was spent on materials, things like the concrete truck, the steel we have to buy. Another considerable sum was spent for rental of equipment. Another considerable sum is spent through DATAS, which is our scholarship and bursary program. So we're looking primarily and only at contracts we tendered out to do. So we're looking at the other DP spends, development spends. And in terms of contract value, in total over the 4 years, we issued contracts valued at $349,581,412.89, right? So in other words, just about $349.6 million.
Right.
Of that amount, $220.1 million, rounding off, was given to Tobago contractors.
Right.
So already you hear that is above,
Sure.
that's the majority,
Of course.
right? Where Trinidad contractors are concerned, that came up to $129.4 million. But I want to also say that includes contractors such as like climate control and peaks. You're talking about people who deal with the AC and so on,
Right.
and service providers like those. It include Avicon Limited, and those are some people whose specialty is dealing with roof and ceiling roofs, and they are the ones who have sort of the license to import this special product to seal roofs. So instead of going to somebody who must go to them and then buy it, we went straight to them so we get it cheaper. Right. So it includes them. It includes California Stucco. It includes Corazal Trading. It includes Mecal Fab Limited and Sales and Weighing Equipment Services Limited. Literally, those are the main ones, right? More than that, I want to point out that the lion's share of those Trini contracts are really design, build, finance contracts.
Right.
Let's start with the road in Moriah. That opened since about 2022, where the steps were removed down King Peter's Bay Road, and people could drive to the house now.
Right.
What Tobagonians don't know and don't realize is that we ain't done pay for that yet. For that contractor, $12 million still, although he finished the work completely with his own money.
Yes.
And everything, he ain't sue yet. And there's a Trini contractor. The road going through Friendship, approximately $80 million thereabouts, and going. That contractor forking out that money and putting that money into the project up front. And And as I said on the platform, we are now taking our debt time to pay them on the back end. And so we are using the lion's share of our DP vote to pay Tobagonians upfront with their mobilization to do our work, while the Trini contractors that come in this space are more likely to be those who are funding the project 100% upfront and waiting on their monies on the back end. So you understand how much we favor Tobago contractors in this arrangement. More than that, I want to go further in saying that even those contractors that we have legal issues against, because the THA issued pre-action protocol letters and so on, even those contractors receive payments from us. So we didn't even bad mind them and say...
And some of them still receiving contracts as we speak.
And some of them still receiving. I want them to be honest. Because I don't want to call their names. Because some receive contracts from us in the millions. So imagine that. You are part of an arrangement that we say, look shady. The auditors say it's shady. We have a court cases going on. But you're still free to tender and winning contracts under us.
But I mean...
So imagine if we really blacklist people, and we have not. We have not.
And I know that to be a fact, because there's a contract at the, what do you call it, French field, you call it?
French field,
where some cable and baskets were installed, and the project collapsed, and they fall into the river, and it then fixed. You understand? And that same contractor won a contract to do work up at the lighthouse at the fort. So it is a fact that it is not that that they have been blacklisted, although some of them have done work that I had to say that are questionable and need for us. Would have been in the right if we say we don't want to give them no work. But in the true Tobago spirit, we have decided that we're going to treat the Tobago contractors as Tobago people, because we have this Tobago and we're trying to build the Tobago where everybody have a place to actualize, as you said rightfully.
And not only that, and that is why I could say with confidence that these leaks they have out there are patently false. I can say with confidence, because I don't govern from a place of bad mind. I don't govern from a place of bad mind. I remembered when the Warner Group of companies first got in some legal drama in Trinidad, and the media asked me, I said, while we have RIF, while it will appear as though they don't like me, and we have had public spats, I say, I don't wish that their company fail. I don't wish that in this, whatever they're experiencing in the courts, will cause them to be destroyed. That was actually the night when we had our party elections. That was one of the questions asked me of the media, because the thing had just happened. Because in my mind, we don't have to be friends for me to want you to succeed. And that's why I could say confidently that some of what I have in this space there patently untrue. And that's why I've decided just not to respond. And let me just say, by the way, while I'm not responding to them and in the way they will want me to respond, I have my lawyers taking notes. So I hope people know that the election day will come and it doesn't preclude me or stop me from taking the necessary legal actions. So I hope they know. And they know that I've already screenshotted, saved all the posts and the publications. I have no fear with that. But I'm saying to Tobago, in this fight we have, this does not require us to hate each other to the point that we want to destroy each other. This requires that we all go to Tobago, make our best pitch, and let Tobagonians decide. They and God will decide.
Chief Secretary,
yes,
we have 5 more minutes, right? 5 more minutes. I see X shaking his head, but we go take it. We go take the 5. We take the 5 gracefully. Yes. What you would want to tell Tobago with the last 5 minutes we have on this program here?
I want to tell Tobagonians that in the modern history of Tobago, perhaps from the turn of the century to now, we have not had a political organization quite like the Tobago People's Party. We have not had an institution that has that has been as forthright and honest with the people like the Tobago People's Party. We have not had an political institution so willing to admit flaws, ask for forgiveness for those, and move on. We don't even double down when we're wrong. If we're wrong, we say we're wrong, and we try to self-correct. And that's what I want from governance. That's what I want from a political institution such as ours. I want to tell Tobagonians that in this season, I believe to get this autonomy we have been fighting for the longest while. I believe truthfully that in this season, with 2 standalone MPs, we could negotiate an outcome that is best for us. I want to tell Tobagonians that when you go to the polling station, that the symbol is the anchor.
Right.
I want to tell Tobagonians that as you're looking for the anchor, you might see a black box around the anchor. Even if your eyesight ain't so good because you didn't get a chance to go and get the cataract removed by Dr. Faith and them.
Yes.
You could find it second to last on both ballot papers.
Yes.
I want to tell you that we are prepped and ready for the negotiation. I want to tell you that we can actually do this.
Right.
And I need Tobago and Tobagonians to believe again that we collectively have what it takes to do this, that we can do this together.
Right.
And it's on that basis I want to thank Tobagonians as well for your support. You have been coming out to all the meetings. You have been watching online in large numbers, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you because I appreciate you. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your messages, your prayers, your support. I appreciate your contributions. Those of you coming and buy the little hat, buy the hoodie, buy the cups, as we try to raise funds so we could pay X and them for the time on the radio, right? Because it's a paid political broadcast, right? It ain't free,
indeed,
right? So I want to thank you because we couldn't do this without you. There's a ground up approach, and even after we sign off from the radio on television, there will be the launching of a music video.
Okay,
and that's a song called "New Wave."
Right.
It has been played here on Tambourine over and over again about this concept of a blue wave and washing all of the negative away, all the negative vibes away, washing away all that has gone wrong, and us purging ourselves and being prepared for a new wave, a blue wave, a blue tsunami even, and the work ahead.
Right.
This is not a vote for automatic entry into paradise, but it's a vote for people who will lead us in a fight and lead us with hard work and diligence to get anything done.
Right.
That's why we need your support, Tobago. And we need you on the 28th, we need you on the 29th, and we need you every day after that to be behind us on this journey and in this fight.
Good. But we have a couple of things over the weekend. Maybe you just want to share that quickly.
So on Saturday, tomorrow evening, we are in Roxborough. We hope to start by 6:30. So just after sunset, we'll start there at the Sid Gray complex in Roxborough. Come out and be a part of the last meeting as we make our closing case. And in that meeting, we will rehash all of the ideas and solutions that we posited on the platform over the last couple of weeks. On Sunday, we have our motorcade. We ask that those coming on the motorcade, that you arrive at the Food Hub and the Shaw Park complex for 8 o'clock in the morning, so that we can assemble and so that we can, in a very disciplined way, journey around the island. And even where that is concerned, I'm asking for discipline. It's no secret that I personally, I'm not a lover of motorcades, personally, but I recognize and respect that the party is bigger than how I feel. And the membership of the party wants to do the motorcade, and I certainly will support them having that motorcade. So we want discipline on the roads and safety as we go around the roads. And of course, on Monday morning, by 5 a.m., Our polling agents will be out. They will be at the polling stations to supervise, to witness rather, the opening of the ballot boxes and the unsealing of the envelopes as we prepare to vote. And during the day on Monday, our transportation guys are all in place. Those that will be operating outside of the 100 yards, they are in place already and prepared for us to move and to be ready for the vote on Monday. By Monday evening, we will count the votes.
Yes.
With God, we will win. With God, we will win. And we will celebrate for a short while, but immediately get to work thereafter. But overall, thank you very much. And I hope you appreciate the music video that some talented youngsters came together and did for us.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Chief Secretary, for being on the program today. For all of you listening and, of course, viewing, this has been Who Feels It Knows It, and this is our final program for this season. I think I could say that. And we hope that the information that has been put in the space is of value to you and has an impact positively on your vote on Monday. Again, God bless you. We hope that you have a fantastic day. Pay attention to the information that we put. Look forward to seeing you perhaps in Roxborough tomorrow and on Sunday morning. We gone. God bless you. God bless you. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Yes. Let me see where on the TV there now.
The political campaign will be conducted like church.
Yes, man. Look me chief on TV. Sensible story. Let me sit back and listen to him.
Brothers and sisters, I come to you at this time not just as the leader of this great revolution, but I come to you because there is a mighty blue wave that is enveloping this entire island, this island of Tobago, our home. Because for too long we have walked through the wilderness, and now it's time for a washing.
We are experiencing a weather phenomena. Winds from the east are colliding with winds from the west, and it looks like it's going to be a big one coming towards us. We just want you to stay safe and be prepared. The TPP is coming to take over.
60,000 people, you're behaving like 60,000 crabs in a barrel.
Bounty 28, we are going to capsize the barrel of crab.
Wash the red paint off the line, let's paint it blue. Come let me paint it blue. It's a blue. Make the old red taking back our heritage for me and you. Blue F. It's a blue F. Wash the red paint off the line, let's paint it blue. Blue F. It's a blue F. Together, 60,000 strong tsunami coming through. It's a blue F. We part in the Red Sea now. Them thinking that we will drum. We making the promised land the greatest. Tell them we not backing down. I can't hold from in the ground. Tobago we kicking the barrel down. Come, wash the red paint off the land. Let's paint it blue, blue. Oh yeah, paint it blue. We taking over. It's slavery over. For me and you. It's a blue. Wash the red. It's a revolution. Taking back we own land. Come let we paint it blue. Come let we make it blue. Together, 60,000 strong tsunami coming through. It's a blue wave.
Now it's time to purify the land. Now it's time for cleansing. Now it's time to do it with purpose, with unity, and with truth. Now is it time for us to stand strong and to stand proud and to get everybody on the island on board for this blue wave that is coming, and to ensure that every valley, every hillside, every hamlet, every town, every small village, every cove is actually washed in this blue wave. So this is a call for the 60,000 strong. Whether they're coming from the east, whether they're coming from the north, whether they're coming from the south, whether they're coming from the west, we want 60,000 strong. Let us converge, let us come together, and let us change this land. We have to continue this revolution. We started in 2021 and we are going to continue it in 2025. God will help us, brothers and sisters. And this blue wave will cleanse the land. This is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh God, wait, I'm running and put on my jersey. The blue wave coming, I'm going to put on my jersey. Hold on.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago, broadcasting the beauty of this island paradise to the world.